Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maas. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight, brought to you in part by our good friends over at Ryan's Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street, across from Scott's Foods. Busy week as usual last week on the IPFW athletic front. Real briefly, a quick review showed that the men's golf team participated in a tournament down at Butler University in Indianapolis, and they came in 7th place. The IPFW women's softball team had a pair of doubleheaders. On Easter Sunday, they split a twin bill with the University of Dayton, and on Monday, they lost 2 games to Eastern Michigan University. They're now 4-17 on the year. Men's tennis team had 2 matches last week against the Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo. They were defeated 7-0, and then they went to Nashville, Tennessee, where they were defeated by Lipscomb University 6-1. The men's tennis team is now 5-11 on the year. Women's tennis team also traveled to Nashville, and they were defeated by Lipscomb, also by a score of 6-1. They are now 7-12 on the year. Volleyball team had 2 matches against Cal State Northridge at the Gates Center last Friday and Saturday night. The 8th-ranked team in the country defeated the Volleydons 3-1 on Friday night, 3-0 on Saturday night. Tough foe was Cal State Northridge. But the biggest event of all took place on Thursday afternoon at the Memorial Coliseum, where at approximately 5 o'clock, Athletic Director Mark Pope announced in front of about 100 people that Dane Fife would be the new IPFW head men's basketball coach. Dane Fife is only 25 years old. He's the youngest Division I coach in the country. The next youngest is Jeff Capo, who is 30, and he coaches at Virginia Commonwealth. What we're going to show you now here on Mastodon Spotlight is some interviews that we had a chance to do with a number of people, including Athletic Director Mark Pope, a member of the basketball team, sophomore Quentin Carruthers, Chancellor Michael Wartell, not only the new head coach himself, but his father Dan, who coached Dane at Clarkston High School in Michigan, and who also played collegiately himself at the University of Michigan. So those are some of the people that you're going to get a chance to hear from momentarily, beginning with Athletic Director Mark Pope. The man who made the call announcing Dane Fife as the new head men's basketball coach here at IPFW is with us now, Athletic Director Mark Pope. And Mark, first and foremost, as I said before we started taping, you ready to take a deep breath?
Well, I'm glad the process is over. It was a great process. It was exhilarating on 2 fronts. The first was the number of quality resumes that we got, and that tells me that IPFW as an institution and as an organization has moved up in a quantum leap. Secondly is the passion that a guy like Dane Fife expressed for this job. I can't tell you the number of phone calls that I took from coaches and administrators and sports personalities around the country that said this is the right guy at the right time for IPFW. And the more I listened to that, the more I thought they're exactly right. So yeah, I guess I'm relieved, but of course the work just starts now.
If you can briefly, Mark, talk about the process. When the original change was made and Joe Chodo was named interim coach, and you said you're going to go on a nationwide search and you were going to form a task force committee. Just talk about briefly the evolution of that committee and all the input that they gave you.
Sure, you bet I will. I really felt that I needed input from a group of people that had a good sense of this community and a good sense of basketball knowledge that I could bounce ideas off of and bring ideas to me. And have that group not as a decision maker, not as a vote getter, but as an advisory group to tell me where we were going in certain ways. And to that extent, the Borneys and Jerry Fox, with regard to the community's reaction to certain candidates, Greg Eifert was absolutely invaluable in terms of his work. Greg has an inward touch with several of the coaches that he could pick up the phone and call and get an honest appraisal of a candidate that I could never do. And then you have Jim Moreland and Pat Murphy, who are the old guard IPFW. By golly, we wanted to return to the days of glory and that type of a thing. And those guys were just great. And I will not tell you, I won't kid you that there were points of disagreement all the way through the process, and there should have been, because everyone was trying to do the right thing. Everyone was seeing things through different sets of eyes, and so that being the case, that type of input back to me really helped me solidify my thoughts.
According to other published media reports, when all the candidates started getting pared down and removed, or some kept going, it came down to basically 3 candidates, maybe 4, but the final few candidates, in addition to Dane Fife, Mike DeMint from SMU, formerly of SMU, Joe Pachota, Tracy Doty from Ole Miss. How tough was it narrowing it down to those 4, and then how much tougher was it splitting hairs before you made the final decision to go with Dane Fife?
Well, my wife Julie will tell you how many nights I got up and walked around. She didn't think I was ever going to get a full night's sleep again, because just as I was solidifying my final decisions, something else would pop up and I changed my mind again. I took 15 candidates that I felt were really the next level of candidate and conducted hour to hour and a half to 2 hour long telephone interviews with them and gained a great deal of knowledge from those candidates. And then to try and move that down to the final 3, it was interesting because the advisory committee and the search committee comprised of Kelly Hartley and Tim Heffron. And I arrived at the final 3, and again, Joe, as I said, Joe had a bye to the finals. Joe was going along and would be considered no matter what. But those 3 created such a diversity that we didn't intend, but it just happened, and it shows the strength of a diversity. Dane is an outstanding name in the community and will be received very well by this community, and I believe by young student athletes. Tracy is a legendary recruiter. What a great recruiting talent he is. And Mike, 18 years of experience as a head coach, has been there, done that. That's a tremendous set of coaches. I'd like to roll all 3 into one, but that doesn't happen.
How tough was it to tell Joe Pachota that he wasn't going to be the man?
I will have undying respect for Joe, no matter what happens down the road. Joe Pachota handled a very difficult situation with class and with quality. I will be Joe's biggest proponent and supporter for all the days that he chooses to coach. And I'll tell you right now, any coaching AD out there who's looking for a quality coach, call me about Joe Pachota. This man is top drawer. Joe made it easy on me. When I sat down and said to him, I think we're going to, we started this process by taking a different direction, and I think we're going to continue it, he understood. He said, Mark, I understand. He said, thank you for giving me the chance to coach a Division I program. Now, how great is that?
Now looking ahead, some critics may say that Dane Fife is only in his mid-20s. How much of a fear do you have that maybe the fact that he's only in his 20s may be a detriment, especially in the recruiting wars?
I don't have any qualms about it at all. Dane Fife's got more head coaching experience right now than I had athletic director experience when I showed up 3.5 years ago, because I had 0. Age to me isn't the issue. The issue to me is a person passionate about where they are and what they're doing, is a person committed to taking this program to the next level, and does the person have the pedigree from prior experiences to do what's right. Now, will he need to understand how we do things at IPFW and that they're different from IU? You bet, no question about it, and we'll try and work with him every step of the way in making that happen. Age to me is not an issue. As I said in the opening statement up there, Tennessee took a chance on Pat Summitt. That seemed to work pretty well. Army took a chance on Bob Knight, both ages younger than Dane. That worked pretty well. So yeah, we're ready to go.
Thanks for giving us some time. Now you can go take a vacation.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Michael.
We're at the Memorial Coliseum, where Dane Fife has just been named the new head men's basketball coach here at IPFW. And one of the student athletes he's going to be dealing with is Quentin Carruthers, the redshirt sophomore from Flint, Michigan. And Q, your thoughts on the new basketball coach?
It's an exciting day. Very happy the wait is over. I'm just anxious to get to know who the coach was going to be, and it seems like we made a very good pick.
Coach mentioned in his opening remarks that he had a chance to meet with each member of the team and talk about that meeting.
It was a light, brief meeting. He knew a lot about each individual player. Just came and just took some comments, took some questions, let us know what kind of system and how we'll be doing in the academic program he'll have. So, it was an informative meeting, but it was quick. So,
first impressions mean a lot. What was your first impression of Dane Fife?
Dane Fife's an intense guy. I wasn't really a big Indiana fan because of Michigan State, but his first impression came off as a very intense defensive guy who was going to be very dedicated to the program, and so I think he's a good fit.
What did he tell you guys in the meeting as far as for future plans?
He said we didn't really talk about future plans really down to a science, but he's just covered and said we're going to get to work as soon as possible, as soon as he can get everything situated and get in the office and start running things. So, I mean, I got a good feeling about it.
As you and I both know, this has been a tremendous year in any number of meanings. This is going to be your third coach in less than 12 calendar months. What does that mean to you and to your teammates?
It means, it's basketball is basketball, whether you're playing for any type of coach. So I'm just happy to get back on the court. And even though the season's just ended, I'm excited like it's just beginning like next month or so. So, going through three coaches, it's some struggling, but you got to get adjusted. And, I think we can do that.
Appreciate you giving us a little bit of time.
No problem.
It's Quentin Carruthers, the redshirt sophomore from Flint, Michigan. With us now is Chancellor Michael Wartell. Chancellor, we appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes of your time.
I'm delighted.
Your thoughts on this selection?
Well, Dane is certainly enthusiastic, and you can't even begin to imagine how interested, how dedicated, how incredibly enthusiastic he is about being the coach. And that enthusiasm is infectious. There's no question that he knows basketball. There's no question that I think recruits will be very attracted to him. But also, and very important to me, is the fact that he really emphasizes academics. And he comes from a program that emphasizes academics, and I think that will serve us well.
You were involved to some degree in the selection process. In fact, you probably had the final say, if I understand things correctly. The competition, from what I hear, was fierce.
Oh, it certainly was fierce. I don't think we could have gone wrong with any of the finalists that we had.
What do you feel is going to be Dane's biggest attribute for IPFW as a coach?
He's tough and he's enthusiastic, and I think those are his biggest attributes. As a player, he was that way, and if he can instill in the players that we have that kind of an attitude, we'll do well.
Is he going to be given a bit of a leash to develop his own program? Because I know a lot of the fans here in Fort Wayne, since we've made the move to Division I, are hungry for a winner. And when we talk about winner, we're talking about the scoreboard. And I know you and I can talk about some of the other pluses, like you say, the academics and the meshing within the student body. But from the diehard fan who says IPFW has to win now, is he under a timetable to win and win quickly?
No, not at all. And for the fans that want him to win and win now, those folks don't understand what a high-quality program is. And if they choose not to support us as a result, then that's their choice. We're going to have a high-quality program, but not winning at all costs. And that's how programs get into trouble, the winning at all costs attitude. We have to have a program that has integrity.
Well, we appreciate you giving us a little bit of time. Congratulations on the selection, and let's see what happens with IPFW basketball.
We certainly will. I wish us luck.
Thank you again.
You take care.
That's Chancellor Michael Wartell here at IPFW. We'll take another break and come back with more of Mastodon Spotlight from the Memorial Coliseum in just a moment.
How many of them did you have?
Last count was almost 100. We had this place filled. All that's left is this note. Seems to say something about leaving to help kids and families.
Where?
In Fort Wayne. Something's going to happen in Fort Wayne.
Captain, you should see this.
Tracks.
They're out there.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. We're here at the Memorial Coliseum where Dane Fife was just named the head men's basketball coach here at IPFW. And with us now is Dane Fife's father, Dan, and I appreciate you giving us a little bit of time. As a father, how proud are you of your son making it as a collegiate head coach in Division I basketball?
Well, it's a dream come true for Dane, and his mother and I know his grandparents are all so very happy and proud of him. He's worked hard. He's always been a hard worker, and it just goes to show you if we work hard, good things come to you. So,
for the benefit of our viewers, both you and Dane are from Michigan, Clarkston, Michigan. And in fact, Dane played, if my memory is correct, for you, because you're the head basketball coach at Clarkston, also played some football. But yet he found his way to Bloomington, Indiana to play collegiately, crossing state lines. What was that like?
Well, it was tough, but Dane, since an early grade, I think about 5th grade, wanted to play for Coach Knight. I mean, he visited Duke, North Carolina, Michigan State, and Indiana. And it was really Coach Knight. He wanted to play for Coach Knight, has always wanted to play for Coach Knight. So Coach Knight brought Dane to Indiana, and, it's strange. I knew at the time Dean Smith wasn't going to last, so that was, I liked Coach Smith. I liked all the coaches, but I wanted Dane to play for a coach who'd be there for 4 years, and that didn't work out. But and I'm sorry, because Dane thinks the world of Coach Knight, but he turned a negative into a positive, and it worked out with him with Coach Davis. And Dane's fortunate that he likes both and respects both those coaches. So, and not all college kids leave a program like that. So.
Dane comes from a basketball-playing family because you played at University of Michigan, and your other two sons also played at Michigan. How did he get into the coaching bug?
He's Dane thinks he's been the head coach. His brother, oldest one, Dugan, played at Michigan, was 6 years older. So when he was his freshman in high school, Dane started, going with me everywhere that I went. Sitting with me, getting after players, come to practice all the time. He's always wanted to be a coach, and he has said for many years that even if I am good enough to be in the NBA, I'd like to do it for maybe 2 or 3 years, but I really want to be a college coach. So he has always had visions of, no matter how much money he made in the NBA, if that happened, he wanted to be a college coach. So, and what a great place to start. I mean, this atmosphere is just amazing to me.
As a coach yourself, what is the biggest attribute that Dane will bring to IPFW?
I think Dane, it's his toughness and his work ethic. Dane spoke about it today in the press conference that he went through a tremendous slump as a sophomore there, and it was really down. And one of the things that I always am so proud of Dane is, even though he wasn't scoring, he was able to keep himself on the floor. I mean, he's always started and played most of the games, whether he scored or he didn't score. And I think that's a true test of who you are. If you can keep yourself on the floor, even though you're struggling at one thing, and don't make it such a negative that you can't play, that's what he wants to instill on all these kids. And you can overcome a lot of things through hard work.
When the selection process kept getting whittled down, and Dane was still in the mix, did he ask you what your thoughts might be or any advice that you could give him?
Dane, all of us, all three boys, we're very close. We all talk a lot together. Dugan just called a while ago. He wanted to hear the entire press conference. But, one of the things Dugan kept saying, Dad, because I was concerned that they might be worried about his age. And he said, Dad, if they were worried about his age, they would have said that right from the start. Don't worry, they would have said, we think you're a good guy, a good candidate, but you're just too young for us. And they've never said that. So I like the fact that, Mr. Pope thinks that he's capable and he's not worried about his age, and because I never was. I never was, but my thoughts as a dad and as a coach and all those things don't mean a lot when you're dealing with big money and people that's making big decisions. So,
as a coach, you can give him certain pieces of advice, but as a father, what's the best piece of advice you have given him or could give him? Uncover every stone. Don't give up. Work hard. You'll do it. I mean, the other day he was talking about knowing kids, and I said, Dane, don't ever underestimate you. You know kids. You maybe you've never been in a position where you had to make a decision on a kid necessarily because you're the assistant, but you know kids a lot better than you think. You know what makes them tick. You know what their strengths and weaknesses are. You can tell. So he knows that. Thanks for giving us a little bit of time.
Continued
success.
It's always nice to talk to a Michigan man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Dan Fife, father of head coach Dane Fife. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk to Dane himself. You're watching Mastodon Spotlight on College 56 Sports.
He was at my door with this note.
Sponsor me?
What'd you do?
I sponsored it. I don't know how it got here, but it needed an artist's touch.
Scores of Mastodons missing from the warehouse, now popping up all over Fort Wayne, asking businesses to sponsor them and artists to decorate them. But why?
So they can be auctioned off to raise money for a worthy cause, like the United Way of Allen County. Just a hunch.
Sponsor a Mastodon and help raise money for the United Way of Allen County.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. We just spoke with the father of head coach Dane Fife, and now the man of the hour himself, We're happy to welcome to Fort Wayne and to IPFW the new head basketball coach at IPFW, Dane Fife. Welcome to Fort Wayne.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's it's truly an honor, and I've said that all along. It's just great to be a part. It's great to be a part of an outstanding community, and from a basketball sense, there's not. I would venture to say there's not many communities that know basketball and love basketball like Fort Wayne, and as well as the state of Indiana. On top of that, what a great university, and the kids there. The players, the administration. It's just, I think it's going to be a great match, and I'm excited to be a part of IPFW athletics.
You've been a head collegiate basketball coach now for maybe a couple of hours. What's it feel like?
Well, you stand up there at the podium and they announce your name as the head coach, and you're like, is this true? Is this happening? And I think it's similar to having the chance to play for the national championship in front of the world, and this is something that I've always wanted to do, and to kind of have the opportunity to pick where I want to go, and the timing was just perfect. This is truly amazing to me, and hadn't hit home yet.
From your perspective, talk about the process, how it came about, and you found out about the opening and the interviews and so forth.
I happened to be going through the newspapers to try to read about general stuff, recruiting teams, and I was scouring the Fort Wayne newspaper, and I came across the job being opened, and I immediately sent a letter to Mark and made a phone call and tried to call the people that I knew that support me and would try to sell me to Mark, and so that was the process. It's been a long process, and it hasn't been easy. I've been put to the test. It's tough. Having to sit in front of 20, 30 people and explain why you're the best man for the job, and that's tough, but I think the intangibles that I bring to the table I think really is what put me in the forefront with everybody.
And in your mind, what are some of those intangibles?
Well, I think just the overall you look at the coaches that I've played for and worked under, and I have a reputation as a good worker. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you how great I am or how good of I work very, very hard, but I do have a reputation, and I think people respect the way I go about my business, and I think above that, I had a success at Indiana playing basketball, and I think you put all those things together, and I think, as Mark Pope put it, I was the best fit for this in quotation marks, this job.
You mentioned you've had some nice mentors, and no doubt Bob Knight, Mike Davis, your father. Yep. And a lot of people may not realize it, and we had him on earlier. Yep. You played for your dad at Clarkston, and I'm a native Detroiter, so go Wolves. But But how much of an influence has your dad had?
To me, he's the ultimate coach. He's the ultimate motivator, and he continually has success with, I guess, less than with decent talent. Not great talent, but he's continually successful without a kid over 6'5". And I've always said that if he ever gets a kid over 6'5" that can play, he's going to get that state championship. But he's continually successful, and he's a person that I will always seek advice from. It was truly an honor to grow up with such a great coach, and I certainly was fortunate.
You're inheriting a program that's still an infant as far as Division I is concerned. A team that won 7 games this year, a team that won only 3 games last year, and has never hit double digits in victories since becoming a D1 member. What's your first thought? You've had a chance to meet with the team. You haven't seen them on the court, though you may have seen some film. What's your first thoughts?
Well, I went into this job thinking that when I get a chance to meet the team, if I don't feel right and I don't feel like they have the right attitude in place, I'm not gonna take on this challenge. And from the beginning, I recognize that these kids, these players, are eager to win, and they want to be successful, and they've been part of successful programs before, and I think it's just a matter of having the right right components in place to get this done. And let me just add that we've got a great administration and, again, a great city to help us.
I know it's early yet, but what is the Dane Fife philosophy of winning basketball?
I think first and foremost we're going to stress that each player does not leave the court without the satisfaction of knowing that they may have lost the game, they may have won the game, but they fully know that they gave it everything they had, whether it's practice or games, and that goes on. That goes with academics, it goes with other aspects of life, and that's what we want to teach first and foremost, because not only are they going to need that on the basketball floor, but that's life. You've got to compete, you've got to give it your all, or you're not going to be successful, and you're going to find yourself not meeting your goals.
Well, early prognostication for year number 1 of the Dane Fife era at IPFW. Any preliminary thoughts, what you'd like to accomplish in first year?
I think what we want to do is really make a giant leap in terms of improvement in all areas from now until the beginning of the first game with Loyola. We want to make a big leap, a huge bound, and I think that can happen. Again, I told them I'm not going to tell you we're not going to set a goal of how many wins we want, because we know if we come out and play the way we're taught, then we'll win every game. And we execute, then we'll win every game. But that's simply we simply can't guarantee. And we will lose games. There'll be a point in time where we're going to lose, and it's a matter of how we deal with them and bounce back.
Again, welcome to the community, welcome to the campus, and we look forward to the beginning of whichever way you want to call it, the Dane Fife Show or the Head Coach Dane Fife Show. But we look forward to getting together in the fall and starting a good relationship.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the interviews that we were able to have with Mark Pope, Quentin Carruthers, Michael Wartell, Dan Fife, and new head basketball coach Dane Fife. Again, a busy week this week at IPFW. Some of the athletic events that are going to take place. Coach Billy Gernon's baseball team, which is doing rather well, they're going to be playing this week at home against Dayton. At home on Wednesday. That was on Tuesday. We'll let you know what turns out next week. On Wednesday, they are playing host to Wright State, 2 o'clock game. And Saturday and Sunday, they are at Youngstown State in Ohio. The men's golf team travels to Eastern Kentucky University for a tournament this weekend, while the women's golf team travels down to Bloomington to take part in a tournament put on by IU. Men's tennis team has a number of matches, all at home. On Tuesday, earlier today, if you're watching this on Tuesday night, they entertained Western Illinois from the Mid-Con. On Friday, they play host to Cleveland State at 1 o'clock. And on Sunday, they are at home against Illinois Chicago from the Horizon League. The women's tennis team also very busy this week. They played Western Illinois earlier today, being Tuesday. Also, they're having a late match against Valparaiso University. On Friday, they also play host to Cleveland State. And then at 6 o'clock on Friday, they're hosting the University of Evansville. And then on Saturday, they are taking on both Oakland University and Bradley University. So a busy week for the tennis team. Softball team has a doubleheader at home against Oakland University on Thursday at 3 o'clock. And finally, the men's volleyball team is on the road this weekend. They are at league-leading Loyola of Chicago Friday night, and then they'll take on Clark College from Dubuque, Iowa on Saturday before returning home. That's pretty much what's ahead on the athletic front this coming week for IPFW. We'll let you know how things turned out in all of those sports next week. And if things go well, we hope to have head coach Eric Burns and a couple of members from his men's tennis team as well. But that's on next week's show. And until next week, for our sponsor, Ryan Steakhouse, again located on North Clinton Street across from Scott's Foods, this is Mike Maas saying, have a great week and continue to go Dons. finally starting to act like springtime outside, and that means a lot of athletic activity here at IPFW. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we'll tell you what transpired within the athletic department, tell you about a milestone for one of IPFW's coaches, and our emphasis this week will be on tennis. We'll have head coach Eric Burns and a couple of members of the men's tennis team to visit with us as well. All that and more on Mastodon Spotlight. Please stay tuned. It's coming up next right here on College 56 Sports.
Hi. I was wondering if you wanted to go out maybe or something, if you had time.
I can tell by your excitable behavior and verbal faux pas that you have generalized anxiety with paranoid tendencies. It would never work.
Okay, thanks.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Miles. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight, brought to you in part thanks to our good friends over at Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street across from Scott's Foods. Well, as I said a moment ago, it's finally starting to act like spring. Weather is getting a little bit better, a little bit warmer. We're seeing more of the sun, and that means a lot of activity outside for our athletic teams here at IPFW. Real briefly, here's what took place, or mostly what took place last week on the athletic front. We start with baseball. Coach Billy Gernon's squad is playing very good right now. They had a number of games last week. On last Tuesday, they took on Dayton, coached by former IPFW coach Tony Vittorio. Ninth inning rally allowed the Dons to defeat the Flyers 11-10. Then on Wednesday, they took on the Raiders from Wright State, a member of the Horizon League. Again, a ninth inning rally. Final score, Mastodons 15, Raiders 14. That was Billy Gernon's 100th victory as a head coach here at IPFW. Then on Sunday, in a make-up doubleheader with Youngstown State, Penguins took two from the Dons by a score of 7-4 and 13-5. And on Monday, IPFW defeated Grace College from Winona Lake by a score of 13-3. At this point of the season, with many games to go, IPFW is 12-8. From baseball, let's go to golf. Both our men's and women's golf teams were in action last week. The men's team was at Eastern Kentucky trying to take part in a 54-hole tournament. They got 18 holes in, and out of 16 teams after day one, IPFW was in 12th place with a team score of 312, 11 strokes out of first. But unfortunately, Mother Nature stepped in and prevented play from being continued. So it just went in the books as a one-round tournament. Dons finished 12th out of 16 teams. Eastern Kentucky, the host school, the winner. Dons in 12th place, leading the way, Matt Fry with a 74. While the men were in Eastern Kentucky, the women were down in Bloomington against IU, or in the IU Invitational, I should say. And the women's team, short on numbers, trying hard. They did compete well, but they finished well in the pack. Vanessa Weimer, 36-hole score of 180, led the way. The Dons finished in 19th place overall. From golf, let's go to softball. Keith Fisher's squad playing last week against Oakland University. Doubleheader on Thursday afternoon. The two teams split. The Dons won game one 6-2. Oakland the nightcap 5-3. Weather permitting, they're going to get some more games in this coming week. Now, volleyball. Arnie Ball's Volley Dons were on the road last week. They took on MIVA conference leader Loyola of Chicago on Friday night. Very tough match. Dons lost games 1 and 3, won games 2 and 4. Unfortunately, game 5, the decisive fifth game, went to the Ramblers 15-11. Keynote for IPFW, senior Matt Spashewski, career high 36 kills. Then on Saturday in Dubuque, Iowa, the Dons rebounded to defeat Clark College 3-0. So at this point, they are 9-13 overall, 6-6 in the conference. And basically, the only other activity that took place was on the tennis courts. And we'll detail what happened with both men's and women's tennis teams when we return from this break as we chat with head coach Eric Burns. That will take place when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
That boat was all right.
You know, if she continues to spill product at a rate of 3 per hour, unit cost, say 60 cents. Factor in breakage, downtime, lost sales, you're looking at $2,400 a month. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Our emphasis this week is on tennis. And here to talk IPFW tennis with us is the head coach for both men's and women's tennis here at the university. We welcome back Eric Burns. Welcome back.
How's it going?
You haven't been feeling well the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure if it's the weather, missing Hawaii, just being sick, or the teams have been playing hard but coming up a touch short in some of the matches.
Probably a combination of all that, but I miss Hawaii, that's for sure.
Before we talk about the last week or so, there was a lot of action last week with both your men's and women's tennis teams. Briefly talk about what that trip to Hawaii was like.
It was a great opportunity, I think, for both teams. We got over there early in the season, got to play 3 matches and practice outside a little bit, and I just think it was a great experience for everyone. Tough teams out there. BYU Hawaii's women, they've won like 104 straight matches, an NCAA record, and they're one of the best teams ever in Division II. So got to play great competition, but it was just a beautiful place, and you know, we had a little bit of time to check out the island and went up to the North Shore and got pushed around by the waves, and it was just a good time.
And for a week you didn't have to think about snow and cold weather.
That's right. Then we got back here and reality hit.
Oh, let's talk first about the women's team. And they played the proverbial boatload of matches last week.
Yep.
And we start off last Tuesday. Western Illinois and Valparaiso from the Mid-Con. You got to play them here at home. And the first match against Western Illinois, 4-3, close match.
Yeah, a lot closer than I wanted it to be. We were up at 3-0 at one point and kind of lost a couple of 3-setters, and all of a sudden we found ourselves in a 3-3 tie, and our 6th singles player going on, Jessica Vervink, and she hadn't played singles for probably about a month, and she pulled it out, but it lost big in the first set, came back, and it's just kind of proof that, you know, you're never out of a match. She really dug in and scratched her way back in that, but it was a good win.
Well, then you took on Valpo later in the day, and they defeated you 6-1.
Yeah, Valpo is probably the best team in the Mid-Con this year. I thought we competed pretty well against them. You know, we got a win at 2 singles with Hannah. Played a couple other good sets in some other spots. We were pretty tired from that first match, and you know, I don't think that would have made a difference in the outcome, but I think we probably could have played a little better. But overall, I was pretty pleased with that match.
Well, then a couple of days later, and again, as we talked before we started taping the segment, get home matches when you can. It's the bad part about being an independent. Again, a pair of matches on the 2nd, I believe it was, against Cleveland State from the Horizon League and the University of Evansville and their Missouri Valley Conference.
Yep.
And Cleveland State defeated you 5-2. Evansville defeated you 4-3. Again, competitive matches.
Yeah, 2 very close matches. The Evansville match came down to our 3 singles that went 3 sets, and then lots of other chances in the Cleveland State match. Just didn't get a couple of close matches, but overall, pretty good day, I thought.
And then I believe it was Saturday. I think it was Saturday, my memory's correct. 2 more home matches, and this time Oakland University, again from the Mid-Con. And you won that match 6-1.
Yep.
And then another Missouri Valley Conference foe, Bradley University, and you lost them 5-2. Quick thought on those 2 matches.
Well, the Oakland match was a good win. We had beaten them earlier in the fall, 6-1 as well. We just got our points in some different spots this time. But pretty good match for us. Thought we could have played better in a few spots, but overall, you know, you'll take a 6-1 win anytime. The second match of the day with
Bradley
was a tough match, and we dropped the devil's point right off the bat. I made a coaching decision to go with some different doubles lineups. Thought that might pay off. It didn't. I think a lot of times you get the doubles point that brings some momentum to the singles, but unfortunately we just couldn't get that. We were close at one singles, close in a couple other spots, so very easily could have turned that match around as well and won that. We've been in a lot of matches on the women's side like that. If we could have just pulled a win here or there, we might be looking at a little different overall record.
And real briefly, some of these players: Ashley Colson, Hannah Hager, Lisa Bartelheim, Joe Carey, Beth Miller, Jessica Vervinkt are playing your singles and then matching up with some of your doubles. At this point, as we're taping this interview, your record with the women is 9-16. And real briefly, looking ahead this week on Wednesday, or today if you see, or tomorrow if they see it Tuesday night, you're playing IUPUI, and then Saturday on the road at Eastern Illinois, and while you're there you're also going to play Southeast Missouri State, so it just keeps on going.
Still pretty busy.
For the women, briefly, and John says we don't have too much time, the men didn't play as many matches. They only played 3 matches last week. Western Illinois, again from the Mid-Con, you lost that match 5-2. Cleveland State, you lost that match 4-3. And then you finished the week off Illinois Chicago from the Horizon League, and unfortunately they skunked you 7-zip. You're 5-14 with the men, but they're playing some competitive tennis as well, because sometimes numbers lie.
Yeah. Well, we've been a little disappointed with our results this year. We feel like our team is better. It just seems like a lot of the other teams are getting better too, and we're always playing catch up. But we have had some matches where we've played some good tennis. The Western Illinois match was a unique one in the fact that we had 2 guys, our 1 and 2, get sick, decided they can't play, so we had to change some things around in singles and move Gonzalez and Lionheart up to 1 and 2. And they really responded, came through with big wins at 1 and 2, and then we were really close at 3. I mean, when you have to move people up 2 spots, it makes it tough to win, but we kept battling in that match, so I thought that was pretty good. And Western Illinois is a strong team in the Mid-Con. They'll definitely be top 4. The second match with Cleveland State was close, as it always is. Came down to a final match at 6 singles, and we just weren't able to pull that out. But I think the trend again is you've got to get that doubles point, and we lost 2 close doubles matches, 8-6 at 2 and 3, and we were right there. It's just we've got to get over the hump at some point. Then Illinois Chicago, they're just a pretty strong team. I thought we played pretty well with them, but at the same time, 7-0, we went home. So we just got to keep working on playing better points. But overall, pretty good week. We're getting better. We'll just look to improve a little bit this week.
This week, briefly, you've got Valpo. We're taping this on Tuesday, later today, Valparaiso here at home. Thursday, you're home to Toledo from the MAC. And then Sunday, you're at Eastern Illinois. In 30 seconds, what can you tell us about these upcoming matches?
Valpo's much improved. We've played them 4-3 the last 2 years. Today will be a tough match, so we'll have to really bring our A game. Toledo, out of our conference, the MAC. Every team in the MAC is good, so we'll have to play well there. And then Eastern Illinois has been battling through some injuries, but again, I mean, none of these matches are easy. This is Division I tennis, so we'll have to show up and play our best tennis each time to have a chance to win.
Well, continued good luck. It's going to get better before it gets worse, so just keep exhorting the players to play hard. We've been chatting with Eric Burns, the head coach for both men's and women's tennis here at IPFW. We'll take a break, and when we come back, prior to last week's matches, we had a chance to sit down with 2 members of the men's tennis team, a freshman from Aruja, Brazil, Nabil Morad Fijo, who we've called Bill. We'll find out more about him, and also Scott Beasley, who is a junior from Wawasee High School. Our conversation with those 2 gentlemen will take place when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment. Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Our emphasis this week is on tennis, and at this time we have the opportunity to speak with a couple of members of the IPFW men's tennis team. To my immediate right is freshman Nabil Murad Filo.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
I knew I was going to botch it up. He's a freshman from Aruja, Brazil, and his nickname is Bill. And we'll call you Bill to make it easy for you here in this segment.
Okay.
And to Bill's right is Scott Beasley, who is a junior from Wawasee High School in Syracuse. Welcome to both of you. First and foremost, tell us a little bit about yourselves, and Bill, we'll start with you.
Yeah, okay. I was playing juniors in Brazil, and I was studying there. I graduated in high school, and there was an agency in Brazil. They just manage people from all sports possible, and they just go to college in U.S. And my brother came to U.S. 3 years ago, and I did the same thing. I just came to U.S. to study on a scholarship.
And playing tennis is just a sideline?
No, it's my second. I need to play tennis to get my scholarship, so I need to play and study.
You always knew that you wanted to come to America to go to school?
Yeah, since I was 12 or 13 years old, my goal was come to U.S., graduate, and come back to Brazil.
Scott, you're from nearby Syracuse, relatively nearby, less than an hour's drive.
Right.
Tell us about yourself, please.
Grew up playing, all kinds of sports, and was into basketball and baseball, and then came into tennis as a freshman in high school, and then ended up being, a great sport for me. Enjoyed it a lot, and ended up heading here just walked on. Coach gave me a good opportunity to walk on, and it's worked out great, and just trying to improve each year.
You come from a family that has a lot of athletes in it, because I know one of your older brothers when I did some work over at the University of St. Francis.
Right.
And I think you mentioned, you played tennis. I know your brothers played basketball, baseball.
Right.
Your brothers were high school stars at Wawasee.
Yeah, they were.
Did some major league damage while they were there in the Northern Lakes Conference. What led into your decision to come to IPFW?
I was really not sure where I wanted to go. I was thinking about going to Ball State, but I really just wanted to stay in athletics. I've been in it all my life, and want to be close to home. I'm an hour drive. I want to go home, so it just worked out perfect for me to come here.
Bill, let's come back to you for a minute. What was both, I guess we'll call it high school, the equivalent of high school like, and what is the tennis like down in Brazil?
The tennis is it's not that big. It's like in the U.S., but we don't play any sport in high school. If you want to play any sport, you play out of school. You go to a club and you just ask for, if you want to play soccer, you play soccer. If you want to play tennis, you play tennis. You don't have it in high school.
Now the tennis in Brazil, is it primarily clay or is it hard court? Or?
It's primarily clay.
Clay.
We play more on clay. Like as many hard courts you have in the U.S., we have clay in Brazil.
So what's the transition been like now playing up here in the United States, playing primarily hard court? What problems have you found?
Yeah, I was used to play more on clay, but I played a lot in hard courts, so it wasn't that hard. In my style of game, I think it's better to play in hard courts because my best strength is my serve.
Now you're leading into what I was going to ask next. I noticed you're playing #2 singles and #1 doubles here at IPFW. The first question is, what do you prefer, singles or doubles?
It's hard to tell. I like to play tennis, but I really love to play doubles. It's a really nice game. I prefer doubles right now.
You mentioned that serving is the best part of your game. What do you feel is the weakest part of your game?
Right now, maybe my forehand's not that good, but I can practice and just get better.
Are you more of a baseline player or serve and volleyer?
I like to go to the net and volley.
Scott, how about yourself? What do you prefer, singles or doubles? I know you're playing doubles primarily here, and you're in a dogfight to get into the singles competition, but what do you prefer, singles or doubles?
I started out singles, but I'm really starting to enjoy doubles. It's a lot of fun, and I just come along in doubles, so it's starting to become my favorite.
Also, we mentioned for Bill that his favorite part of the game is to serve. What do you feel is the best and worst parts of your game?
I'd probably say the best is my backhand. For some reason, it's just always, ever since I started, has been one of my better strokes. But for the weakest part, I'd probably say just consistency and just my mental game. Just trying to get all that into one. It's pretty tough, but hopefully we're making some progress.
Since you're the veteran of this duo here today, let's talk a little bit about the IPFW men's program. It's unique in the sense that the team is an associate member of the Mid-American Conference. In fact, your last match that you played as we're taping this interview was against Ball State,
Right.
one of the powers of the MAC. Talk about, this is your third year with the program, talk about the evolution and what it's been like from your vantage point of how this program is progressing.
We've really, I think it's really come a long way. Coach Burns done a great job with, recruiting. The first year I came here, I think we had maybe 7 or 8 guys on the team, and we weren't that strong in depth. Now we're up. I'm a junior, so my third year, we're up to 12 guys on the team, and there's 6 spots. So it's a pretty competitive team this year. I think it's one of the better teams we've had here at IPFW, at least since I've been here. And the last 5 or 6 guys, we're all competing for the spot, so it just makes us that much better. And we're scheduling, we got some better teams. We're going up against Ball State, which is in our conference, which is the top 50 team in the nation. And, we went out to Hawaii and played great schools like Hawaii, and so, we're coming a long way from where we started.
Boy, you're reading my mind also this morning. The next thing I wanted to talk about was you began the spring portion of this season with the trip to Hawaii, and let's talk about that trip. Was it the first time that you've been to Hawaii?
Yeah, it was the first time, and hopefully it's not just going to be once that I went there. I want to come back there. It's a really nice place. We went there just to play, and we didn't have the opportunity to go to a lot of places, but one day I want to go back there like a tourist.
What was the best part of the trip for you?
When we went to North Shore, for sure. It's a really beautiful place.
And Scott, what was did you make the trip also to
Yeah,
Hawaii?
yeah, it was a fun trip. Hawaii is, it's a great place, and I think all of us were a little shocked when we got there. Just with everything, and how much different the culture is there than it is here. And it was a fun time. Like Bill said, we went to North Shore, which is a famous beach, and it was awesome. So it was a great time.
And you get to play outdoors
Yeah.
as opposed to indoors. Let's briefly talk about that as well. Part of your season, the spring season, weather is dictating that you have to play some of your matches indoors. What has it been like? And it's a new facility here
Right.
that you're playing at.
It's it's a nice place in there, and it's different. And it's like this every year when we go from the fall to the spring. We have we're playing some matches inside, some outside. And our upcoming match, we play Western Michigan inside. And we have a match against Lipscomb down in Tennessee, which is outside. And we've had no experience outside except for Hawaii. And we're practicing outside today, actually. So it'll be a little cold, but it's something we got to do if we want to compete on the hard courts outside.
Real briefly, we got time for one more question for each of you, and it's the same question. What do you hope to accomplish with the remainder of this spring season here at IPFW? Bill, we'll start with you.
Hopefully we can do better than than we are actually doing. We're not doing bad, but we still got like maybe 12 matches, and I hope we can at least win 8. And in the MAC conference, hopefully we're gonna play our best and do our best in there.
And Scott?
Basically, my goal, since I've been here, we've been in the MAC, and we haven't had a MAC victory yet. And I think this is the year we can do it. We play Buffalo, which is one of the teams I think we can beat. We might be able to squeak out again, win against Toledo or some other schools. It's a great conference, but my goal is, like Bill said, just if we can go 500 or better, would be a great feat for us, and be great for our tennis team.
Well, we appreciate both of you coming over here. Continued success with the tennis program, and we didn't really talk about the academic side, but continued success in the classroom as well for both of you. And thanks for appearing on the program.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with a couple of members of the IPFW men's tennis team. Nabil Murad, and I'm even going to bypass the last name, Bill for short, freshman from Aruja, Brazil, and Scott Beasley, who is a junior from Wawasee High School in Syracuse. We'll take a break and come back with more of Mastodon Spotlight in just a moment.
Are you in there?
What's up? The show's at 7. Whoa.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. We hope you enjoyed our conversations with Eric Burns, the head tennis coach, and two of the members of the men's tennis team. Busy week as always here at IPFW as the spring season moves along. Real briefly, here's what's ahead this week. Among other things, baseball team, several games this week at Central Michigan, home to Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Chicago State, and next Monday, Taylor University Upland comes here for afternoon contest. Women's softball team will be playing arch rival IUPUI later this week in a doubleheader. Both golf teams are idle. We told you in the last segment about what's ahead for the tennis teams as well. And then finally, not to miss anybody, track and field is still competing. We hope to have Mike Frucci on in a few weeks. And finally, the volleyball team has two important conference matches at home. Friday night against Quincy and Saturday night against arch rival Ball State. Both matches start at 7 o'clock. And for Ball State, that match is going to be on Channel 56 as well. Steve Florio and I hope to be here at 7 p.m. with all the action. So if you can't make it to the Gates Center in person, tune into Channel 56 for that. Time's up for this edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Again, thanks to our guest. Thanks to our sponsor, Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street across from Scott's Foods. Thanks to you for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW Athletics. We invite you to come back again next week for another edition of the program. And until then, this is Mike Maas saying, have a great week, enjoy the weather, and continue to go Dons. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maas. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. We focus on IPFW athletics as a rule. This week, we're going to modify things a little bit. Instead of giving you a number of scores, because all our athletic teams have been busy here in the spring, we're going to show a special emphasis on two sports. I have two special guests this week. Jeff Marsh, the head golf coach for both men and women here at IPFW, and then my old sidekick, Ryan Perrott, who is the assistant men's volleyball coach for Arnie Ball on the men's side. We're going to have visits with those two gentlemen, talk about golf, the golf teams, talk about the men's volleyball teams in some detail. So we hope you enjoy it. Again, Mastodon Spotlight brought to you in part by Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street across from Scott's Foods. Stay tuned. When we come back, we'll chat with head golf coach Jeff Marsh. You're watching Mastodon Spotlight on College 56 Sports.
How many of them did you have?
Last count was almost 100. We had this place filled. All that's left is this note. Seems to say something about leaving to help kids and families.
Where?
In Fort Wayne. Something's gonna happen in Fort Wayne.
Captain, you should see this.
Tracks.
They're out there.
welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. One of our emphasis this week on the program is my favorite sport, golf, and here to talk IPFW golf with us is the head coach for both the men's and women's teams, Jeff Marsh. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Good to be back.
You're back in town, be it only for a short period.
Only for a short period. We leave again on Sunday for both teams. So,
fallacy of the infant programs for golf is that right now you're not able to play any of the tournaments you participate in at home.
True. All of our tournaments last year and this year are on the road. However, I've been working pretty hard over the last 3 or 4 months. A Signature Inn here in Fort Wayne has been kind enough to agree to be a sponsor, and next October, I believe the dates are the 17th and 18th of October, we'll be hosting our own event for both men's and women's golf teams. So looking forward to that. The invitations to the first set of schools went out yesterday in the mail, so I've had some good responses just verbally. So hopefully we'll get a full field and have our own event.
And maybe the next time we get together on this program before we're done for this spring, you may have some names you can mention.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about the progress of the season so far, and we'll start. Let's start with the men's team.
Okay.
You just tried to play a tournament in Eastern Kentucky.
We tried to play at Eastern Kentucky down in Richmond. Weather didn't cooperate. We actually got the first 18 holes in, and then we got the next really 9 holes in, and the rain had been raining for a while, for about 6 hours, and it actually never stopped until we actually got back to Fort Wayne the next day. So the rounds 2 and 3 got rained out. But in the first round, we played pretty decently. We shot .312, which really is about 6 shots above our average. But again, the second half of the first round, the second 9, was in the rain. We posted rounds of 80, 79, 79, and 74. Matt Fry shot 74 and finished in the top 20. So they were starting to play well, and even into the first 9 holes of the second round. At the turn when we stopped play, we were collectively we were only 9 over par for our 4 counting rounds, which was putting us, by my calculations, in shape to move up past 3 more teams. After the first round, we were actually in 12th, and we were actually ahead of the University of Cincinnati, Wright State, Youngstown State, and Cleveland State, and they have been handedly been in front of us in all the tournaments so far. So I was very pleased with their efforts. I also noticed a better attitude that the team has had. They've been lacking a little bit. I've changed up some things we've done in practice and some things we do when we get to a tournament, trying to get them to start to enjoy playing again and not be so down, so stressed out, and to just go with the flow, so to speak. And it seemed to be working. And then also, Kim had the ladies down at IU, and she did some of the same things, and so we're starting to see some improvements there. So.
Well, I'll put the men aside for a moment. I want to get back to that point, preparation and so forth, but let's talk about the women. It's a little different situation for the women because you've only got 5 players.
Right. The women are having a tough spring. The fall, I was pleased with. Really no problems or anything there. So far this spring, we've had Nicole Geyer had a cast on her hand for about 2 weeks. She broke the hook bone in her one hand. When we were in Florida, she actually played 2 rounds, 2 tournament rounds with a broken bone. So we put her in a cast, and we played the Butler tournament with 4. She got the cast off right before going down to IU and was able to play and didn't do too bad. The women are all hitting the ball fine. Their short game needs a little work. Weren't real pleased with their putting efforts in the first round at IU. Second round, they got a little bit better. So we made some changes in our practice schedule this week to help them with their short game, especially their putting. So, but down at IU, Stephanie jammed her toe against the door, so she's hobbling around, and we'll see how she does. And now Kelly's had some internal injuries developing from some other scenarios that are not athletically related, just more of a hereditary scenario. So we're battling that. So it's been a little tough spring for the ladies, but their spirits have been high, and they're doing the best they can, and I've been very pleased with that.
Let's go back now to what you were talking about in the preparation standpoint, and I'm wondering, I had the opportunity too many years ago, I played 1 year of collegiate golf up in Michigan for a junior college. I'd like to know if you can tell our viewers a little bit about what a typical practice session is like And then what it's like, you mentioned preparing for a tournament, you're having to get on the road, so you're driving someplace. Once you get to the tournament site, getting ready for round one, what that process is.
Okay. Practices usually, they kind of revolve around three different types of practices that we do based on when the tournament is and then when the practice will fall. Most of our downright technical structured practices deal with short game. Bunker play, pitching, chipping, and putting. We will put them through a number of different drills to help them with those specific areas, whether it be hitting 100 bunker shots and we tell them they've got to hit them, so many of them so close. We have a number of different putting drills that they can go through, dealing with short distances, dealing with a putt that might break, and then dealing with long distances. We've been, the ladies down at IU had a problem with their longer putts, not being able to two-putt. So yesterday we switched practice a little around and drills on the putting green. We always incorporate a short distance, a 3 to 5 foot distance, but the other two drills were what we call two variations of what's called a ladder drill. And that's allowing them to get used to putting different distances and having to get accustomed to try to two-putting that versus three-putting or four-putting. The first round at IU, not one of them averaged below 40 putts. So we needed to work. Yeah, we needed to work a little bit on that. And then again, we did some bunker shots, and then we worked on some 50 yards and in shots, and then we made sure they hit some full swings. We also have a day where we do a playing day. And depending on the situation, it will be one of two things. It may just be go out and play and try to just be your normal self. But then we also use that as our course management strategy scenarios. There's a number of things that we will do with them. I will pair them up and have them play an alternate shot. I will let them play 9 holes and I will take their driver out of their bag. It's to put them in situations they're not normally into so that they can get accustomed to adjusting those. Because, for instance, if they hit a tee shot in a tournament and they catch a tree and the ball drops straight down, now what do? Well, by taking the driver out of their bag, they're hitting a shorter club off the tee. It gets them used to that scenario. We're going to do one this coming Friday, which is one of Kim and I's favorites. We call it our 4-club challenge. We give them 4 clubs that they can pick out of their bag. They cannot take their driver. And they have to play 9 holes with those 4 clubs. And that will create some creativity, some imagination, and again put them in situations that they normally aren't in to help with their course management. And then there's the third day, we call it player's choice. All golfers know there are certain areas of their game that they know themselves, that nobody else can see, that they need to work on. Whether it be they go to a tournament and they say, yeah, I hit the ball really well, but I putted like a dog. Okay, so now it's player's choice. Now you need to practice on the things that you feel you need work on. And then Kim and I are just all around. And we help them with, we know some start to gravitate to the putting green, some go to the bunker, some go to the range. So we just kind of make our way around and make sure that we're helping them. And again, that's also helped keep the attitude and an upbeat perspective of it. And they seem to be adapting to that. That's the changes that we've made this year versus in the fall we were a little bit more structured. We've kind of lightened up a little bit, but I think they're starting to understand what college golf, especially Division I college golf, is about. And we saw very good signs of that both at IU and at Eastern Kentucky.
Men's situation is a little different because you have more players available.
True.
They still have the, if you want to call it, challenge series or the playoff, so to speak, to determine who goes to the next
tournament.
tournament.
Yes, they still have to qualify. And even on those days, we do have the ladies, they still do play. Granted, they don't have to qualify because there's 5 now. They'll have that next year. In essence, the ladies this year are going through what the men went through last year, but just an extended season, because last year the men only had the spring portion where we played 6 events, whereas the ladies have a full season of 10 events, 5 in the fall, 5 in the spring. So, but yeah, they're taking their lumps this year and going to tournaments. The IU tournament's a big tournament for them to go to. We finished 19th out of 19th, but it gave them an experience to see a good golf course and what the good teams and the good players can do. And little old Grand Valley State, Division II school, finished 2nd behind Notre Dame, ahead of Minnesota, Marshall, Ohio, University of Toledo, Indiana, Iowa, Big Ten schools. So they're starting to see what it takes. And that was what when I did my recruiting, that's what I went out and looked for, as people that could pop into that situation and continue to grow with that. So,
we're going to stretch this segment out just a little bit. I've got a couple of questions I want to ask. One of them is, I think there's, 2 meets left in the spring for each team?
Each tournament, each team has 2. The ladies this Sunday leave for Loyola, so they'll be up in Chicago. And then the following weekend, I'm actually going to get a chance to travel with the ladies. The men aren't traveling until later in the month, so I'm going to take the ladies over to Youngstown State. And then this Sunday, I'll take the men over to Cleveland State. And then at the end of the month, the 24th through the 26th, the University of Dayton is hosting a tournament, so the men will go there. We've got 2 good golf courses and 2 good tournaments for the men to play in. Redtail over at Cleveland State has actually been a past regional qualifier or second stage qualifier for the men's U.S. Open. And then Yankee Trace for the Dayton tournament has, for a number of years, hosted the Nike Tour event. So we're looking forward to both those tournaments.
And last but not least, come actual summertime in June, there's a tournament that you want to plug.
True. My mother passed away about 2.5 years ago. Some individuals that my mom and dad used to do a lot with came to Dad and I and said, we'd like to do something in Judy's name. And knowing that I was the coach of IPFW, they wanted to put on a golf tournament, a golf outing, and part of the proceeds would come back to the IPFW golf program in the form of scholarship money. They also donate money to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation as well as the American Heart Association. So it's not just something to benefit the golf programs. My mom passed away because of her heart situation, very unexpected, and my nephew has cystic fibrosis, and knock on wood, he's doing very good at age 6. Really no problems so far. Last year was the first year we had it. We had about 80 players, was very successful. We've already got the entries and brochures are out. They can get them out at Deer Track. The tournament will be June 3rd at Deer Track Golf Course. It's an event where we come out and there's a little lunch beforehand, play, and then there's dinner afterwards with the awards, a number of raffle prizes. So it's a fun event. That's what we wanted to do with it, make it a fun event, and at the same time raise some money for 3 good causes.
We wish you well in that endeavor.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll get you back one more time for a season wrap-up, and hopefully you'll be able to get Kim, more your assistant coach, with you as well. Continued success with both programs, and we will see you shortly down the road.
Sounds good.
We've been chatting with Jeff Marsh, the head coach for golf for both men and women here at IPFW. We'll take a break and come back with more of Mastodon Spotlight in just a moment.
He was at my door with this note.
Sponsor me?
What'd you do? I sponsored it.
I don't know how it got here, but it needed an artist's touch.
Scores of Mastodons missing from the warehouse, now popping up all over Fort Wayne, asking businesses to sponsor them and artists to decorate them. But why?
So they can be auctioned off to raise money for a worthy cause, like the United Way of Allen County. Just a hunch.
Sponsor a Mastodon and help raise money for the United Way of Allen County.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Time now for a shifting of gears, so to speak. We've been talking golf with Jeff Marsh, and now we're going to talk volleyball with my old sidekick, and I'm really tickled pink that he's back to visit with us, Ryan Perrott, especially on short notice, but
okay.
I appreciate you coming over.
It's my honor to be here. And we can still talk golf if you want, since Tiger Woods did win the Masters.
Yes, he did.
Some people think with my haircut I kind of look like Tiger. I wish I had the wallet size like Tiger Woods, but...
Not to mention his betrothed.
Yes.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. That's good. Things are going well.
Much as I'd like to talk golf and Tiger, let's talk this segment primarily volleyball.
Certainly.
It's been a frustrating year for you and Arnie and Denny and Mark and everybody. Correct me if I'm wrong. The season has been something to the extent of a car going down I-69. It's an 8-cylinder car, but it's only running on 6 to 7 cylinders. Is that a good analogy? There have been times of good play, times of spotty play, times of frustrating play.
Well, I mean, anybody could get away with saying frustration or being frustrated throughout the course of the season as an escape. But when you really think about it with our team, at least up to this point anyway, currently sitting fourth in the MIVA conference. You know, who knows if that is where we're supposed to be, whether or not we've overachieved or whether or not we've underachieved, to be honest with you. When you start 3 freshmen, when you have an individual who his entire career had played middle and now is thrown into the setting position, you know, the team chemistry and so forth needs to be adjusted. And we have done so over the last, I'd say, month, maybe 3 to 4 weeks or so, in terms of getting our team cohesion together. And due to all these changes, obviously, with our personnel, I don't know. I mean, we've been inconsistent, that's for sure. Maybe
inconsistent is a better word than frustration.
Yeah, maybe inconsistent is the better word in terms of where we'd like to be, maybe. But I think we've definitely turned a corner since our California trip. No question about it. Obviously, we go to Loyola Chicago, the best team in our conference. We play them tight again, losing to them in 5 games. But I'd say inconsistent is probably a better word for us than frustration.
I'm almost afraid to ask Arnie this question, so I'm going to ask you. How much has the loss of Dennis Santiago hurt this team, looking back?
Well, it's key, no question about it. Very athletic setter, a very gifted setter. And I get asked that from time to time, and I say the same thing, is where we would be. I like to ask myself this: where do you think we would be in terms of positioning if Dennis was here? Would we be better off? But at the same token, we would still have to pass the ball to get to Dennis, and we're inconsistent off of serve receive in terms of passing the volleyball. There's no question he was an athletic setter, very gifted. Obviously, very good blocker, quick in the backcourt, can play defense, pick up any balls. It's a tough question to answer. It really is.
And I don't want to knock Mike Randolph and Mike Dyga especially, because they've done the bulk of the setting. And nothing against them. But again, you mentioned Mike Dyga used to being in the middle, you know, tag teaming with Sadar in the middle, and then he plays setter. Mike Randolph last year was libero.
Right.
And he's got to make a position change to the setter.
Right.
And it's tough enough, you know, having played the sport, it's tough enough playing the sport in one position to begin with, but to be asked to shift gears and go from middle to setter or libero to setter or go from, you know, one side to the other, it's difficult.
Absolutely. And both Mike Randolph and Mike Dyga have done an exceptionally great job at adjusting to their new positions. It's a tough scenario. And to get back to your question in regards to Dennis, we just don't know. I mean, that's a crapshoot, and we just don't know how good a volleyball team we could have been. Maybe we could have been worse off. I really don't know how to answer that question. All I know that obviously with the individuals that we do have on this team, we've just been inconsistent this year. Whether or not we've overachieved or underachieved, I'm sure we'll know in the next couple of weeks, obviously, as we go through the conference play. But you know, we like our chances. We think that we're starting to get to where we want to be in terms of our level of performance. You know, just a couple little tweaks here and there, get a little more consistent in terms of putting pressure on teams, handling the ball, which, you know, we had a couple swings against Ball State, but we couldn't handle the ball to get a good quality swing. So, you know, we just need to fine-tune the basics a little bit, and hopefully, Ryan Staley, who's now the assistant coach over at Quincy, he and I talk frequently about a week, and you know, he's all into that coach's mentality. And throughout the course of the year, I found myself growing into the coach's mentality. And the one big picture, as I always come back to, when anything breaks down, I always go back to basics. And the one big picture is, all you need is 2 good weekends of volleyball. Quarterfinal, and then the conference tournament. That's all you need is 2 good weekends of volleyball, and we believe that we can do it.
It's been a wacky year in the MIVA. Who would have thunk that Loyola of Chicago would run away and hide? And I have to admit, I don't know if they played Saturday night, but going into Saturday night, they were 23-1, and we had them on the ropes here in the Gate Center. We had them on the ropes, we just couldn't finish the job. And also, when you guys went to that little tin box there in Chicago, They won 1 and 3. You won 2 and 4, and it's 15-11 in the fifth. Maddie with a career night, 36 kills. You gave them everything they could handle at their place. But who would have thunk Loyola running away with the conference? Ohio State seems to have a solid team. But then after that, Ball State, even though they came in here and beat us in 4 Saturday night, they've been up and down. Lewis, and I don't know if it's good or bad that they're ineligible for postseason play, but they've been up and down. Findlay has shown great strides of improvement. Mercyhurst has improved. Let's talk briefly about the MIVA this year.
The parity in our conference is sickening because any team can win on any given night. That is why they play the games. Over the weekend, Ohio State beat Loyola at Ohio State. Findlay beat Lewis again for the second time this year over the weekend. It literally is a crapshoot when it comes to our conference. Loyola has done an amazing job this year. Shane Davis, head coach, former player there, has done a phenomenal job with that team. We, obviously, aside from Ohio State, who beat them this weekend, match up, for some reason, very, very well against Loyola of Chicago. Then you throw in Ohio State. Coach Hansen, every year he does this. He has the team peaking at the right time of the season, come April. He has that team ready to go for conference play. Ball State, who knows with that team. Obviously, they play so good at home because they're in that big arena. They're used to it. They go on the road. They're scrappy, whatever. So they're always in contention. Lewis, obviously, they're hurt because of the NCAA sanctions against them. No postseason for a couple of years. They started off really hot with all those players that they had to go through the last couple of seasons with the ineligible players and so forth. So they started off really well. Now they started to do a tailspin. Findlay has come up. That team works so hard, so scrappy for every single point. You knew eventually the rewards would come. Mercyhurst, another tough quality team to play. Quincy, the same thing, another tough. We went 5 with them at Quincy. The first 2 games they could have beat a national team. They were that good. They served us off the floor. They did everything. Another scrappy team. The quarterfinals is going to be very difficult because whoever matches up against Findlay, Mercyhurst, you can't take those games lightly. You cannot take those games lightly. Loyola, chances are, will host the tournament because they have the best record in the conference. Number 1 seed gets to host the tournament. It is a tough environment to play. The crowd is into it. Great fans, knowledgeable volleyball fans. The ceiling is as low as these lights here, 10 feet off the floor. That's why you play the regular season to get that home court advantage for them. Is it anybody's game? Absolutely. Who knows what will happen in the next couple of weeks in terms of teams peaking, personnel injuries? Who knows? Is it a surprise Loyola's number 1? Maybe. Perhaps in the fashion that they've done so at 23-1. Now, obviously, they're 23-2 with their second loss to Ohio State. That's probably a surprise. But I don't think between the top 4 teams, and obviously this year with Lewis being ineligible, but the top 4 teams, Loyola, Ohio State, Ball State, and us, just on different seedings, but usually those 4 are the top 4 in the conference. And you can throw in, obviously, Lewis depending on which year. So it probably has played out to what it's supposed to be.
This is the rough final week of the regular season. We come in off a tough Ball State loss Saturday night. We're taping this on Monday. On Wednesday, you and the team travel to Romeoville, Illinois. You're going to take on Lewis. I got to go on that trip last year, and it was a great a win for us last year there. But you got to go there on Wednesday night. Tough match. Friday, you're back home. Final non-conference match against Rutgers Newark, a team that you defeated at their place earlier in the season. And then Saturday night, it's senior night, and we say thanks to Maddie for all the 5 years. Like, he's a 5th-year senior. All the good things he's done for us. But Ohio State's coming into town, and obviously they got to be sky high after knocking off Loyola last weekend, and they're probably going to be the number 2 seed. And they throttled us at St. John Arena earlier this year. So obviously the team's looking forward to postseason play, but this is a tough final regular season week.
It is, without question. When you play 3 matches in 4 days, span of 4 or 5 days, it's very difficult. But as a player, I always used to love to play instead of practice. And I'm hoping that that's the case with these guys this week. Obviously, going to Lewis is going to be a big match. We played very well last year, obviously, up there. We were very competitive. Should have beat them here at home earlier this season. Lost to them in 5 after being up in the 5th. And obviously, they're on a little bit of a downspin in terms of their play recently. And we think that we're on the upswing. So it should be a good match, obviously, and we always play well at Lewis. Obviously, Friday, Rutgers out-of-conference game. We're not really going to stress much in terms of play with Rutgers because the only way, obviously, we're going to get to the Final Four is if we win a conference, not out-of-conference strength. Saturday, obviously, the big one with Ohio State. That is important only because it can get us some good momentum going into the quarterfinal match the following weekend here at home. So it is a tough week, no question about it, but it's a good way to finish up, and we think that, as I say earlier, that we are playing we're almost where we want to be. Obviously, as I say, we need to fine-tune a few things, but it's a great week of volleyball coming up for us. Obviously, we got to step up to the challenge, compete, obviously, under such duress situations, and hopefully take something into the quarterfinal match the following weekend.
Thanks for coming over.
Thank you.
And good luck this week, and good luck next week in the postseason tournament, and we'll see how things turn out.
Appreciate it, absolutely. It should be a good time. Obviously, congratulations to you and your Fort Wayne Wizards gig. Congrats.
We're 0-4 at this stage. We're in a little bit of trouble in the sense that they're mad at me for not getting them a win.
Well, congratulations anyway, and thanks to be here.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We've been chatting with Ryan Perrott, my old sidekick, who I miss tremendously on Channel 56. He's doing a great job helping Arnie Ball with the men's volleyball team. I want to also thank Jeff Marsh, the head golf coach for both men and women here at IPFW, for appearing earlier in the program. Thank our sponsor, Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street across from Scott's Foods. And last but not least, we thank you, the viewer, for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW Athletics. We invite you to come back again next week for another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. But until then, this is Mike Maas saying, have a great week. See you at the Gates Center Friday and Saturday night. And remember, if you can't make it Saturday night, we're on TV at 7 o'clock, Channel 56. We'll see you again next week. And until then, go Dots. Ever wonder what it's like reporting sports for TV stations? On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we're going to talk with 4 members of the Fort Wayne community that have done exactly that. Please stay tuned. The special edition of Mastodon Spotlight's coming your way next, right here on College 56 Sports.
How many of them did you have?
Last count was almost 100. We had this place filled. All that's left is this note. Seems to say something about leaving to help kids and families.
Where?
In Fort Wayne. Something's gonna happen in Fort Wayne.
Captain, you should see this.
Tracks.
They're out there.
Do you have everything you need? Paper, pencils?
We only ask that you do your best. And make you a snack.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, 2 great names.
He was at my door with this note.
Sponsor me?
What'd you do? I sponsored it.
I don't know how it got here, but it needed an artist's touch.
Scores of Mastodons missing from the warehouse, now popping up all over Fort Wayne, asking businesses to sponsor them and artists to decorate them. But why?
So they can be auctioned off to raise money for a worthy cause, like the United Way of Allen County. Just a hunch.
Sponsor a Mastodon and help raise money for the United Way of Allen County.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Miles. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight, where we normally talk about IPFW athletics. Our sponsor is our good friends over at Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street, across from Scott's Foods. As I mentioned a few moments ago, I threw out the question, you ever wonder what it's like reporting sports on a TV station? Well, my special guests today do that very thing. To my immediate right is Tommy Shegler, Channel 21 weekend sports anchor. To Tommy's right, the dynamic duo of Pat Hoffman and Brad Brown from Channel 15.
I'm Batman.
And to Brad's right, and I'm happy he's here, Brian Bose. And I'll be politically incorrect to start this show. I felt he got shafted at Channel 33, and he was one of the 57 members of Channel 33 that lost their jobs recently. I appreciate you coming in, and we're going to talk maybe about that, maybe about other things. But the first item on the agenda today, reporting sports for a living. We've had Tommy and Brad on once before, and Tommy, I'll start with you. What led you to get into this business?
Just kind of worked through high school, stumbled upon the TV program, and started doing games on the TV station in the high school, and then that led to radio in college and a major in college, and have been doing it ever since. So I think Brad and I both 16. Yeah, both of us 16 the first time that we started doing something, and have both been doing it ever since. So.
Hoffman will call me out on that. I was younger than 16.
Yeah, he was about 12. He was my stat boy.
It was well before that.
Patrick?
What else would I do? I mean, quite honest, I was a sports nut as a kid. I had no real desire to do anything else. I never, ever in my entire life thought of doing anything else. So I'm just thankful that I'm able to do it and get paid.
Stat boy.
Hi there.
I have the tape, by the way, of one of Brad's first games when he was in 8th grade at Eastside High School doing an Eastside football game. My old buddy Tim Albert.
In 8th grade?
Well, 8th grade, I was doing a high school game. The guy rolls out of bed and he comes in picking on me. What's up,
Boy genius. You are the dynamic dude.
That's how I was introduced to Brad.
Bozo and the boy genius.
Who brought this cat in here?
Hoffman was a different size then too.
I had a mustache.
We both were, and he had a mustache and really bad hair. No, I like big words, so I got in it for the to try and master the English language on a daily basis. No, same as Hoffman. It was, you're a sports.
Mr. Hoffman.
Whatever. You're a sports. When you're a sports geek and you can't play sports worth a lick, the next best thing is to watch it, and to be able to get paid for that's kind of cool.
I was a player.
1,000 years ago.
Knee injury.
We'll find out more about that momentarily. Brian, you made the move from radio to TV because hopefully a number of our viewers remember you were a voice of the Fort Wayne Wizards for a while.
Well, unlike Pat, I still am a player. Wow, that's going to go over big.
I thought I was his best friend.
Good thing we're on cable.
Seriously though, yeah, it wasn't radio first. I just kind of fell into TV, and it's been a journey from radio to teaching to TV, and now we'll see what happens from here. Haven't decided yet. So yeah, I love as far as TV goes, I think it's a genre that allows you to be a little more, I think these guys would agree too, creative than anything else because you have pictures to work with. I think that makes it so much more fun, first of all, and then you can do so much more with it.
We all started in radio, I think. Don't we all get?
Pretty much.
And I was much more attractive on radio, I'll say that for the record. Unlike Brian, who on television becomes...
Dead sexy. Fantastic. How can we compete with that?
Who's directing? Good job on the director on that.
We can't compete
I
with
grew a
that.
goatee just for you guys.
Wow.
He did it today.
Wow. Just this morning.
Just like that.
I want to get into your situation in a little while.
All right.
But the first thing I want to do, all of us, we get to sit in front of a camera.
Fun.
Do you recall the first time and how scared were each of you? Brian?
I was petrified, man. Holy cow. I went outside, my legs were shaking, my hands were shaking, kind of like they are on your program right now.
Is that what that is?
That's what that is. I'm bumping up against Brad here. Now, a situation where it's just, it was nerve-wracking that first time, and it took maybe 2-3 weeks to really get it under control, and then it still happens once in a while. It still happens when, especially if you have a busy night or if you're not sure your material, you're still a little nervous sometimes.
Brad?
I guess it always seemed natural thing for me. And
He's
I don't
not
know
lying
why.
there. Like I said, I saw him since he was 8th grade. He was a natural right from the start.
Yeah.
Truth.
Thanks. Just from the start, I don't know why. It was just natural. But I agree with Brian on that. You get some nights where that energy level gets up so high that it's maybe not necessarily nerves so much as it is just an anxiety. We just want to go. Let's just go now. It's, you're not on with sports till 11:20, but it's 11 o'clock, you're done, you're ready, you want to do it now. Got a good show right there, and let's do it. And particularly, we got a chance to get back and do some of those IPFW games this season, to get back out and do ball games, and I think Brian can attest to that, doing Wizards, and Tommy with his background as well. You get there on game night, and you're ready to go. And, it's just an energy level that, you want to go at it, and I don't know, can't describe it.
Patrick?
I was very nervous. I think everyone, you're going to be nervous. I had really bad hair. Didn't understand hairspray or short. The shorter, the better. I look back at the first tape that I did. I used to be a full-time photographer at Channel 15, and I was the fill-in guy. I was like the number 3 guy, which Brad is now. But Brad gets more airtime as the number 3 guy than I ever did. They never made me a part of the highlight zone. I got to fill in a couple of times, but I look back at the tape. It's just hysterical. My hair was parted on the side, get tossed over like that, and it was really bad. And I talked like this, and I stared at the teleprompter like this as I was talking.
And hopefully next week he'll get over it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get better, but it was after a couple times. It's not as nerve-wracking as you might think, though, because it's just you got a camera guy here. You're in a studio. You're with everybody you know. I get a little more nervous if I do public speaking, and you've got 500 people or however many people out there in the audience looking at you, and usually it's at an event where they're eating dinner or something like that, and they're really not too interested in what you're saying, but you're up there trying to be somewhat entertaining.
I'm opposite that. I think that's why we work so well together. I like to get a chance to be in front of an audience in a live crowd. That's
pageant boy.
Completely different. So. You may have seen me at the
Miss Indiana pageant by the
I'll be at Miss Indiana in Zionsville, June 23rd through the 25th at the new Zionsville Performing Arts Center.
You got to meet the lady somehow. What better way? Hey, they were at the Miss Fort Wayne pageant. Every girl there gave Brad a hug, so we all may tease him about things, but it's like he's got something going.
My other gig.
Tommy, how do you top that?
I don't. Although mine is so strange when I think back on it, because I went completely backwards. I went from being on in high school and just having it be fun and just going out there and being like, hey, what's going on? And even my first job out of school, I started out in Zanesville, Ohio. It was a really small station. It was like market 202 out of 210 total markets, and still felt like it was almost like the college station. When I didn't get nervous until I got here, and I don't know why that is.
You saw the competition on the weekend, and it was
I was
kind of a big deal.
Brought me to my knees, I gotta tell you. I don't know why that was, but I went through a period here where I got nervous for when I was starting out, and hopefully I've gotten over that on most nights. But I don't know. I don't know why it was like that, but I was kind of like Brad when I first started out. Didn't have a care in the world and just seemed like it came natural. So that was kind of backwards.
A lot of people don't realize, and when
What about you, Mike?
What about me?
Mike, how do you handle being on camera?
Good one.
Well done,
Mike.
Mike, it's my show.
Well, you're right, Pat. It's my show. Maybe I can refrain. No, I'll be honest. I was. I'll give you my first. We all started out in radio, and my radio career began the 1989-90 high school season here in Fort Wayne. I just moved here. And the long and short of it is I was hired by radio station WLAB to broadcast Concordia High School athletic events. And fortunately, my kids got to attend Concordia. And the very first game we did, I had dinner with my boss, who was acting as my color man, and before the game. But the problem is, I didn't know that he was going to be my color man. I thought I was going to be his color man. And here we are 90 minutes before the game, and he says, oh, by the way, you're doing play-by-play. And that was culture shock, but I fell in love with it. As you guys well know, if you've gotten to know me over the years, this is the greatest business in the world. To be able to be at an athletic event, regardless whether it's high school, college, professional, men's, women's, you see the competing teams, you see the contrasting styles of the teams, the coaches, you see the fans, you listen to the fans. And to be able to to have that opportunity to tell others, whether it's on the radio or it's on the TV, of what's going on. That's the neatest feeling in the world.
And to get the big paycheck.
Oh,
Everybody,
you mean we're supposed to get paid for this?
Everybody thinks we make like 500 or
Mike's working
million
for
a year.
Mike's working for Coke and Subway. That's too bad.
But enough about me for the moment, please. I asked you guys to come on here. A lot of our viewers don't realize, you guys, I'm going to put you in the present tense, Brian. For
Right,
moments,
where I'm at
momentarily,
right
we're going to
now,
pretend
brother.
that 33 still has a situation. But you have a situation, you guys are on primarily on the weekends. And
Randy gets a lot of time off, so I am on during the
And
week.
you, yeah, that's true. And you've all filled in. You've all filled in during the week.
And for the record, I got to clean up for 2 of them at my station, so it's any time.
Hey, you need a
But-
break. All right, back
But
to mine.
there is so much. The viewer sees you people on a TV screen, depending upon what day of the week, for anywhere from 2.5 to 5 minutes, if you're lucky on a weekend night. But there is so much to cover, and there's so many things that you have to do behind the scenes. Briefly talk about that, because, you know, they don't just see your pretty faces on the screen.
I don't have
You've
a
got to
pretty
have
face.
scores. You've got to have highlights. You may have to do some interviews. You may have to do some other segments away from the actual game that you're talking about. Talk about that body of work, if you want to call it that, and how difficult it is to put a package together. Tommy, start with you.
I think it depends. A lot of it depends on the weekend, or the night. You know, a football Friday night is the most hectic thing that anyone has seen. Anytime anyone comes and visits into the station, they happen to come in on a Friday night, they will always just sit back and watch the sports guys running back and forth from this place to that place. So there are nights when it can be just really intense, but I think probably everyone will agree those are the best nights. I mean, those are the nights why we really, really enjoy it. And I think across the board you'll find that pretty much all sports guys will probably say that. So it can be crazy. There are a lot of different things to do. I'll refer to these gentlemen so I don't talk about all the different things, but you guys can tell your stories.
I mean, bottom line, like for 9 months out of the year, I'd say once the summer comes around, it changes everything. But it's, like you said, it's crazy. I'm working right up until, like if we go on at 11:19, I'm working until 11:18. I'm usually throwing my mic on at the last second, hopefully getting it somewhat hidden.
Makeup, right?
I mean, I remember one time it was so crazy. I tried buttoning my buttons and had it buttoned wrong, so my collar was like that. They told me during the thing, so I did it again, and instead I went the other way, and the collar was like that for the other one. But like Tommy said, I would take it that way anytime because, like I said, I fill in for Randy a lot during the week. And the week, I mean, there's plenty to do during the week, but not like the weekend. I mean, during the week, I can breathe, I can read a little bit on the paper, I can make a phone call. On the weekend, it's just hectic, but that makes the day go so fast. I mean, sometimes you come in at 11 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden you blink, and it's like, wow, the show's over. It's 11:35.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a pretty typical analogy that I try and come up with people on the weekends is we work an hour to get a minute of television. This is kind of usually close to what it works. And I think the one thing that people don't realize is that they see us, but there are so many other people on a Friday night, as Tommy's talking about. You've got the better part of 5, 6, 8, 9 people that have to pitch in to make that product happen. They may only see 1 or 2 of us, but there are all the photographers and all those production people and all those folks that help to get that on the air. That you know, it's 8 minutes of our pretty heads up there, if you will.
Pretty heads. Well, I don't know where I don't fall into this Mount Rushmore head.
Me either. Go back to camera 3. You see the fat head over here that you're coming up with. Look at that. It's huge, man. It's monstrous. But you come up with enough to fill it, and that's just one of those things that. Same thing. It's 11:18. You're on 11:19. You know, that's what you go for.
By the way, it's like an orange on a toothpick. Sputnik over here. And I did see that episode of Pat with the collar. I looked at it like this. Your head was crooked, but the collar was straight.
Appreciate it, Brian.
Fantastic.
Why did I want him here? Why do I call him friend?
He said something to me when I first started, though, too. He says, no matter what happens, it's funny. It always gets done. It always gets done, and that's one of the most thrilling things, like Tommy was talking about, is like those nights, those Fridays, those Saturdays, when it's like so hectic and you're working down to that final minute and you just get it done somehow. Somehow you're like, how in the world did this get done? You know, I had 20 minutes to do this much stuff and somehow it got done. Sometimes you got to skimp, sometimes you have time to, you know, be really good or over-prepare and get it just the way you want. And I think that's the biggest thrill to it.
I think no matter how much time you have, you're always working right up to the end because when you're on nights where you're really busy, you do what Brian said, you cut some corners here and there. The nights where you have time, you do it, and then you may, read something else, add in a fact, do whatever you need to do. But I think you're always working right up to the end to try to make it as good as possible if you're doing it right.
It's funny because I've said that many times. Oh, it's going to be an easy night tonight, guys. And you're right at 11:10. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm not done. It doesn't matter.
Player or coach interviews. How easy have they been to do? And can you give us quickly a good interview and a bad interview from your perspective? Brian, I'll start with you.
An individual person?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Be careful.
Hi. Yeah. Let's see. I would say probably coaches are always easier to interview because they seem to know what they're talking about and they seem to give you better bites. You're looking for, that's good. Goes out to the college
Y'all
kid,
over
right?
there.
Yeah, looking for
It's an audition
8 to
for
10
Brian.
seconds, possibly 15 at the most. You're looking for a certain amount of sound, and coaches tend to give you better bites, whereas the kids themselves, sometimes they won't give you enough, or they won't give you what you're looking for. And sometimes that makes kids even better. I think you can get better quotes out of kids if you manipulate them a bit. I've gotten kids to say we're studs before. I've gotten kids to predict victory before, and a good coach will talk to them before they talk to me or one of us and make sure they don't say anything. Russ Isaac's really good at that. I mean, he knows what's going on. I mean, that's Coach Ike, and you're not going to mess with him or his team, and you're going to get the same thing. And no matter what, the label's on it. It's Campbell's soup, and you might as well just open it up. You know what you're going to get from Coach Ike. Every once in a while, you get a guy like Ryan Bond, who is the same way. My team's young. His team's young every single year.
I don't know how we won.
They win.
We don't have much talent.
But, I mean, I don't want to call anybody out, but, I mean, there's certain schools that when you go to, you're going to have a hard time. But I'll leave it at that.
Brett?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's always going to be easier to get a good soundbite out of a coach. The few times I've had a chance to interview G and Katie, I think it's kind of a classic case of you're going to get something entertaining, even from what might be the most mundane question. Somebody like that is going to come up with that, and that's the case. Russ Isaacs is another case. You know what you're going to get, but Russ always seems to figure out a way to come up with something that's going to be good for television. It's going to make for good TV. And kids, when you're dealing with high school kids and college kids, 16-year-olds either have something really good to say or they got nothing. They got nothing. And it's a crapshoot sometimes, but you could go a lot of places and get there are just a lot of very intelligent young people out there that articulate and well-spoken and might surprise you sometimes that you get out there and, oh, wow, that's good 20, 30 seconds there that you weren't expecting. So, yeah, no names to call out at this point, but it's
jeez.
Yeah, I'll leave it.
Articulate kids, that's what you're looking for.
That's it.
That's what you're looking for.
We like
articulate kids.
Around here.
The thing that I always find funny is I think usually when we do girls' sports, the girls are almost always better interviews. Not always, but the girls are much more comfortable on camera generally. Again, you can't lump everybody together. And then you got some high school kids, like I remember when Luke Recker came through. It's like, and now granted, because we worked with Luke Recker since he was like 7th or 8th grade. Brad and I both came up through Auburn, and we had a little TV station up there. But, I think in a way we helped some of those young kids through being on television at a young age before when they, got a little older and got into Fort Wayne. Because when they were talking to Brad and I when we were in Auburn, they're talking to me and I have a mustache and bad hair. I had a wedge haircut. I mean, nothing I'm real proud of. But
we talked a lot about your hair.
I had really bad hair, and I'm, by the way, getting my hair cut after this show, so I feel bad about that.
So many jokes.
You want to make, in my opinion, to get a good interview.
So many jokes. Must rip on Hoffman.
Please stop him. Can we just crop him out of this show?
Can we do another show in a minute?
The best interview, I think, you want to make them a little bit uncomfortable in a sense, but not too uncomfortable. You don't want to necessarily give them the softball question, but you want to make them give you something that you want to find out something you didn't know. Obviously, it's an interview, but people lose that sometimes.
I'm going to go a little different. My favorite interviews are the race car drivers. I love going down to Indy. I think you get the great bite. I've never really had many race car drivers that don't feel like they're just oh, you want to come up and talk to me? And they'll just say whatever, happens. And you could get something really, really good from one of those guys. I really like the race car drivers.
NASCAR far better than Indy, though, in my opinion. As far as they'll say anything.
Yeah.
Indy, a little more.
No, the NASCAR guys, I went to the Brickyard first time last year, and qualifying or race day, it's just one of those interviews where those guys are trained to talk in sound bites, it seems, by sponsors and by teams. And
They're literally trained.
Really. You can just kind of tell they've been coached into it. And it's, I guess it's good to a point, but then sometimes you're like, okay, reel it back and give me something real.
And this is the part where you think Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, and
Yeah.
you can't find
We're
fashions.
the unsponsored three over here, these two with their corporate sponsors.
I'd like to thank Reebok, Coca-Cola.
I don't have much time, but there's two subjects I want to get into real briefly. And since this program is being taped at IPFW, I need to talk about IPFW athletics. And the four of you have reported on IPFW athletics. What do you feel is the state of the athletic situation here at IPFW? And briefly, the good, the bad, and the ugly about dealing with coaches, administrators, and student athletes here at the university. Tommy, you're up first.
I think we can all agree that the number one thing about IPFW is they need to get into a conference. I mean, that's first and foremost. And once they do, I think we will see this whole university as an athletic program grow and excel for that matter. I mean, I think they have very competent people here. I think they have people doing a good job. And when it comes to people dealing with people here, I've had nothing but good experiences with all the way from the athletic director on down. I mean, people are very helpful and very forthcoming and willing to do whatever they can to help you out.
Yeah, well, I agree. Rudy Ovich, for people that don't know, is the sports information director. He's who we talk to, get emails from all the time, does a fantastic job keeping us informed. But what was the question again? I lost it. Oh, the state of athletics. Well, like I said, exactly. I mean, I think it's obvious they need to get in the conference, and until they do, they could be Oakland. Like we're talking about the NCAA tournament a while ago. Oakland was, fourth or fifth year competing in Division I, and got in the conference tournament. They were under 500, but they got hot for a week, and they're in the tournament. So, but IPFW, without being in the conference, they're never going to get an at-large bid. So if they can get in the conference, then they can get hot that 1 week, and all of a sudden, boom, that changes everything.
I think one of the good things is that this school seems to be looking beyond basketball. They've got a good base of other programs.
First mistake.
Here.
No, just kidding.
Football. Where's football? They've got a good base with the volleyball teams, and we're seeing some improvement with baseball and softball. And the soccer facility out there is, of course, one of the best in the country. And I think that starting there and then moving on to a conference affiliation and getting a chance to really get to Division I in its purest form, it's a good start, but I think they take that next step, they're going to be well on their way.
Well, these guys have pretty much covered it, so I'll just say, Mastodon, sport, good.
And with that, it's time to say goodbye. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I didn't get into the one area, Brian, I wanted to.
What? That thing that you hit at the start, the
Brian,
S word, I think.
I feel you got shafted with some of your colleagues. I hope your things work out, and hope you're going to be around for a while.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Haven't
We'll be
decided
fine.
yet. So
We'll be
I'm
fine.
getting the handshakes here. The pity handshakes.
Guys,
Get it in here.
Thanks for coming in and chatting here on Mastodon
We
Spotlight.
should do this over a beverage next time, just so.
Well, Coke and Mountain Dew.
Brought to us by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Continued success, and keep covering IPFW athletics. Get more of the coverage if you can, please. Tell your news directors. And we'd like more coverage and go from there. This has been a special edition of Mastodon Spotlight. We appreciate Brian Bose, Brad Brown, Pat Hoffman, Tommy Shagler coming in to talk about what it's like reporting sports to you, the viewers. We're ready to come back again next week for another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. I promise we'll talk more about IPFW athletics. But until then, for these four gentlemen and our sponsor, Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street across from Scott's Foods, this is Mike Mize saying, have a great week, and don't forget to go Dons. things are starting to wind down here athletic-wise at IPFW, as it is academic-wise too, with final exams coming up very, very soon. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we'll highlight what's happening on the athletic front and then bring you an exciting, decisive Game 5 that the IPFW men's volleyball team had as they began tournament play last Saturday night here at the Gates Center. That and more on Mastodon Spotlight. Please stay tuned. It's coming up next right here on College 56 Sports.
Do you have everything you need? Paper, pencils?
We only ask that you do your best. And make you a snack.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maas. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight, where we try to tell you what's going on with the athletics here at IPFW. Our program is brought to you thanks to our good friends over at Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street, across from Scott's Foods. As I said a moment ago, things are starting to wind down. The spring sports seasons are coming quickly to an end, almost too quickly in some cases. And the academic year is winding down as well, as final exams are just around the corner. This week we're going to start off by trying to take a quick review as to what's going on with most of our spring sports, beginning with baseball. Head coach Billy Gernon's team is playing very, very well. It's going to set a number of records as a Division I participant. They have right now an overall record, as we're taping this program, of 19-15. They have 12 games to go, but they have won 7 of their last 11, including wins, convincing wins over Bowling Green State from the Mid-American Conference, 15-14 to come from behind win there. Cleveland State, they lost from the Horizon League 13-4. They split a pair with Illinois Chicago, also from the Horizon League, winning 12-7 and losing 4-3. This week, they get to play at Memorial Stadium across the street from campus. They're taking on the Broncos of Western Michigan University in a doubleheader. They also will have a 3-game set at Bowling Green State this coming weekend. So again, Billy Gernon's team not only doing well, wins and losses, but individually they have some national statistical leaders in Division I. Ryan Keener from Homestead High School doesn't like it, but he's one of the top leaders in terms of getting hit by a pitch. Damian Freemian also up there. Sean Kirk raised his average over 30 points in the last week, hitting the ball very well. And he's 10th in the country in hitting at .439. So that's what's happening baseball-wise. I want to give you a couple of notes about men's basketball. New head coach Dane Fife has completed hiring his staff for the upcoming season. His associate coach will be Jeff Tungate. Jeff was on the staff at Oakland University this past year. The Golden Grizzlies, members of the Mid-Con, they qualified for the NCAA tournament, winning the Mid-Con tournament championship. Jeff will be the associate head coach. One of the 2 assistants will be Tony Jasic. Tony Jasic was on the staff of Middle Tennessee for the past few seasons, past 3 years altogether. And in fact, IPFW has played Middle Tennessee the last 3 or 4 seasons. So Tony Jasic comes from Middle Tennessee. And then Jermaine Kimbrough comes to Fort Wayne via UMass. He was on the staff of Steve Lapis at the University of Massachusetts. He will also be an assistant to Dane Fife. And Dane announced his first signing as a head coach in Division I basketball as Jakari Johnson out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. He's a 6'4" shooting guard, averaging 6 assists, 4 steals, 3 rebounds, double-digit points per game. He is the first Dane Fife recruit, so congratulations to him. Now, from basketball, let's turn our attention to my favorite sport, golf. The men's team, coached by Jeff Marsh, competed at the Dayton Spring Invitational down in Dayton, Ohio last week. They came in 7th with a team score of 956, Wisconsin Green Bay from the Horizon League won the tournament with a score of 899. Top finishers for the men, Andy Campbell tied for 14th individually, had a 54-hole score of 232. Matt Fry, Zach Buchan tied for 29th individually. They were at 240, followed by Patrick Floria, Nathan Hoff, and Patrick Leffers. And that pretty much sums up the men's season. We hope to have Jeff Marsh and his assistant Kim Moore on in the next couple of weeks. We can put that together and we'll review the men's and the women's golf seasons. Men's tennis team is almost finished with their season. They have a record of 8 wins and 18 defeats, and they are going to compete in the Mid-American Conference Championships at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo later this week. The tennis team has done well. They've won 3 of their last 5 matches, defeating Eastern Illinois and Niagara and Loyola of Maryland, while losing to Buffalo and Northern Illinois, but they are playing better. The season is winding down. They finish up their season this coming weekend. Now, women's golf. We talked about the men. The women played at Youngstown State week before last, and they came in 7th as a team. Butler was on top overall. And leading the way for, again, Coach Jeff Marsh's women's team, Nicole Geyer had a 36-hole score of 163. She tied for 7th individually. Vanessa Weimer was at 168, tied for 12th, followed by Stephanie Hops, Kelly Wood, and Casey Kruckelberg. So the women's team also winding down their season. Now we turn to softball. It's been an up and down year for head coach Keith Fisher, but they have played better as of late. As we're taping this program, they have a record of 14-31. They have 4 games left. They're going to play doubleheader at Michigan State, weather permitting, and they're going to be home to the University of Toledo on Thursday. And but they have played a little bit better. They've actually won 7 of their last 12 games. Again, they're 14 up, 31 down, and they will complete their season this week. Now, women's tennis. Women's tennis team has actually finished competition for the year. They finished with an overall record of 11-22. They participated in the Division I Independent Championships that took place at Northern Colorado, the University of Northern Colorado in Greasley. And they finished 1-2 over the weekend. They defeated Texas Pan American 4-3, but fell to Northern Colorado and Texas A&M Corpus Christi, each by scores of 7-0. So their season is complete. And again, we hope to have Eric Burns on in the next 2 to 3 weeks to finalize the campaigns for both men's and women's tennis. Now, a couple other sports left. Track and field for women, they are going along. And they had a couple of meets recently at Indiana State at the Pacesetter Invitational. Nicole Crone from New Haven set a new school record in the shot put. And so she went 11.40 meters, the old record 11.17. Babette Kimes from Bishop Dwenger High School set a new record in the javelin with a throw of 33.86 meters. And running-wise, what else? Ashley Ritchie having a tremendous season. The Leo graduate is only a sophomore here at IPFW, but she ran her first 10,000-meter race of the year, and she ran it in record time, 37:34.23. Her road record was 38:27.89, so she continues to excel on the track as well as on the cross-country course. And they also had a meet over the weekend at Purdue University, the intercollegiate meet there. Ashley Ritchie again came in second in the 5,000-meter run with a time of 18:14.30. And Lauren Simpson from Northrop High School right behind her, third place at 18:27.18. And a personal best for Carrie Minnick in the hammer throw. She came in fourth with a throw of 37.02 meters. One other note with cross country and track and field, Coach Mike Frucci has announced the signing of twins for the second time since he has been here. Cristo and Christina Alberto Martinez from Valparaiso are going to be coming here, joining the Simpson twins from Northrop High School. So congratulations to Mike Frucci for that signing. And then on the women's side, finally, women's volleyball had their spring season. Very, very good job done by Kelly Hartley Hutton's squad. They finished 11-2. The only losses they had were to Ball State and Kentucky, so they're getting ready for an exciting fall season, and we wish them well. Now, that leads us to one sport, and that is men's volleyball. Regular season is complete. MIVA, the Midwest Intercollegiate Volleyball Association postseason tournament, began last Saturday night. 8 teams qualified, and the Dons had a home match here at the Hilliard Gate Sports Center. Their opponents, the Oilers of the University of Findlay, a team they defeated twice earlier in the season. But this is tournament play where the winners go on and the losers go home. And what we want to show you is action from Game 5, the 5th deciding game. In this match, IPFW won the first set 30-21. Findlay came back and won sets 2 and 3 by scores of 30-24 and 30-22. IPFW, now down 2-1, had to come from behind. They won the 4th set 30-22, and that set up a 5th and decisive set. And we've got some highlights we want to show you. And anytime you're ready, John, we will start. This is the first serve of Game 5. Findlay in the black serving. And you're going to see Matt Zbaszewski with the kill. IPFW in the white. They'll be going from right to left on your screen. Findlay in black. And again, in this Game 5, it's rally point scoring where a point is scored on every serve, but you play to 15, win by 2. And at the 8-point mark, the teams will change ends. And there you see Findlay getting a point. C.J. Messias, who is a very, very good volleyball player for the Oilers, he gave IPFW fits all night Saturday night. That's one of his 24 kills. Now Findlay is serving. And again, Mike Dyga is the setter, and there's Matt Zbaszewski, and that kill attempt is long. Findlay is now up 2-1. And it's so hard in rally point scoring, once you fall behind to come back, or once you get ahead, most of the time, it's hard to, to lose the game because momentum usually carries you a long way. Again, Zbaszewski coming to the forefront, and that little, what I call tip shot, ties this 5th set up at 2 apiece. Josh Collins from Toronto is going to serve now, wearing the number 5. Momentary delay while Findlay brought in a player. And at this point, the score is 2-2. You can play to 15, win by 2. Conventional float serve by Collins. And a great block at the net. Sardar Sikcha and Mike Dyga up front. And that time it was Mike Dyga. Also Zbaszewski and Josh Stewart will be up front before long in this rotation. So now the Dons lead 3-2. Collins continuing to serve. And there's Messias with a kill, and IPFW cannot return it. So we're tied 3-3. Back and forth the two teams go. And IPFW was seeded 4th for this tournament. Findlay seeded 5th. That's Brock Ulrich, freshman, a little bit long on the kill, and Findlay now goes up. And Arnie Ball decided he wanted to call a timeout and have a few words with his Volleydons. It was a nice crowd in the Gate Center, and they were extremely enthusiastic. There's more noise made there than I've heard in quite some time. And in all honesty, I was across the street broadcasting Fort Wayne Wizards baseball, and the crowds weren't as noisy as they were here in the Gate Center. So a tribute to the volleyball fans here at IPFW. Zbaszewski had a shot blocked coming out of the timeout. David Franklin did the honors, and now Findlay's up 5-3. And Josh Enlow is going to be serving. Dyga's going to set up Zbaszewski. Going to change a pace by Maddie. Good dig by Ulrich there. Findlay coming back and blocking the ball. Nice dig by Mike Marisi, the libero for IPFW, and there's Maddie Zbaszewski finally putting it away. Now it's IPFW's turn to serve. And you see Mike Marisi, the libero, sitting down. Sardar Sikcha heading to the front of the net. And at this point, Josh Stewart, 6'8" freshman from the Toronto area, is serving. And that time, Findlay will get the point. Again, C.J. Messias, one of his 24 kills on the night. So at this point, Findlay with the lead and the serve. And it's a service error, and it seems like service errors have been the norm this year for IPFW home volleyball matches by the opposition. Don serving now. Nice dig there. And here's Ulrich. Findlay gets it back across. Good block at the net. Ulrich with a dig. And Matty Z hammers one down, but Findlay keeps it alive. And C.J. Macias, the left-hander, finally gets away with the kill. And Findlay now with the serve. Again, game 5, it's only to 15, so every point it seems like the intensity was doubled rather than when you normally play to 30. And that is David Franklin with a service error. So IPFW gets the serve back. And at this point, Gerard Quillen came in for Arnie Ball to serve. Good net action there. And now the teams are going to trade ends. It's 8-6. Findlay on top. So just a momentary delay. The officials in this match were Tom Joseph and Greg Roth, and you're going to see them a little bit later with Findlay's coach discussing a point. So 8-6 the score. Findlay serving. And Findlay gets the point again. Now they're up 9-6. Momentum building. Arnie Ball calls a second and final allotted timeout of the game. Trying to slow down the Oilers, and it works because they come right back with a service error. So now IPFW, they're trailing 9-7, and there is Gerard Quillen coming back in again, replacing Sardar Sikcha, and he will serve. And this was a big play, big move by Coach Ball, because Quillen is one of the better servers on the team. He's actually the designated server. Again, the Dons going from left to right on your TV screen. And Findlay comes right up. Jim Zakowski gets the kill. He had 10 kills on the night. Now you're going to have a discussion here. Whit Kochakoff, I believe, is the coach for Findlay. He's in the suit. And he's got some words with Tom Joseph is the up official, Greg Roth is the down official coach, closest to the coach, questioning a point. And you see Greg heading over to Tom to make sure they have everything correct. They're going to come back and they're going to tell Coach that the call on the floor stands, and it's going to be IPFW's point. At this point, the crowd was starting to get, at least the IPFW fans, they weren't the happiest with the coach. And now you see him play again momentarily held up because of blood on one of the members of the Findlay Oilers, and the trainer wraps it up so to the satisfaction of the officials. Make sure no blood splatters on the floor. So now we're about ready to resume. Again, Findlay is leading in this decisive 5th game at this point. But IPFW has the serve. It is 9-8 Findlay, I believe. Quillen, again, conventional float serve. Good action at the net by the Dons. They blocked well. By that time, Findlay gets the point, and it is now 10-8. Findlay just 5 points away from ending IPFW's season. Chris Keene will be serving. Dyga with a set. Josh Stewart gets it over. Findlay blocked it. Nice dig there. Dyga. And believe it or not, Findlay's going to be able to return this ball. Sets up what's called a free ball opportunity for IPFW, and the Dons cash in on it. And that is Josh Stewart with that almost windmill type of swing. That time, Dyga set up Matt Spashewski, but his kill attempt was wide. And that made the score 11-9 in favor of Findlay. Again, we're only playing to 15, win by 2. Jump serve is long, another service error. On the night, Findlay committed 26 service errors. It's 11-10, and Findlay had called a timeout. I think that's Dyga that's serving. And the block attempt by Sikcha is wide. 12-10, Findlay on top. Josh Enlow will serve for the Oilers. And they're really feeling it right now because they're on the road. They've already lost twice to the Dons, but chance to knock them out. But again, Josh Stewart on a set from Mike Dyga gets a big point for IPFW. 12-11. Sikcha comes back on the floor. Mike Marisi stopped being the libero and came on the floor to play in the backcourt. And I believe it's Josh Stewart going to serve. And the dig, ball is still alive, even though it may hit the net, the top of the ceiling. It is playable in the gate center. And a great block, tag team block. Ulrich and Sikcha combined, and we're tied at 12. As you'll see momentarily. Momentum seemingly in IPFW's favor. They will serve. Again, Josh Stewart with the honors. Findlay, however, will respond. Good dig by their libero. And David Franklin comes down with the kill. So now it's 13-12, Oilers on top. Findlay with the serve. They're only 2 points away from the match. And John Breen comes in. He is Findlay's designated server. And he has the jump serve. Good dig that time by Breen from the backcourt. Action at the net. IPFW trying to control it. And it's ruled a double hit. So now Findlay has match point, 14-12. Actually, they have a couple of match points. And they have the serve. John Breen serving for the match. You can see some of the Oilers are pumped up. Jump serve coming. And it's long. Again, that is the 26th and final service error. Don's still alive, still facing a match point, and it's Matty Zbyszewski serving. Dyga's going to set up eventually. Brock Ulrich, and he finds a loose part on the floor, and now we're tied at 14. Now it's win by 2. First team to win 2 successive points pretty much has this one in the bank. Zbyszewski will serve. Senior did not want to end his career on Saturday night. Findlay gets it over. Dyga for Sikcha, and Sadar Sikcha with the kill, and now IPFW has a chance to serve for the match as they lead 15-14. Before they can do that, Finley calls their second and final timeout. Here we go. Match point. Matt Spashewski to serve. Winner goes to Chicago. Loser goes home. Great block at the net. Daiga and Sikcha tag teamed it, and that was it. 16-14, Validans win. They advance. You see there, they win in 5. Matt Spashewski, 26 kills and 8 digs. Sadar Sikcha, 11 kills, 8 block assists. Mike Daiga came off the bench to get 25 assists. Mike Randolph started the match at the center spot. He had 22 kills. So just a great win, come from behind win. They're now 12-16 on the year. They're still alive. They will play the number 1 seed, the Ramblers of Loyola Chicago, Friday night in one semifinal. Ball State and Ohio State will meet in the other semifinal. The 2 winners will play Saturday night, and the winner of Saturday's match qualifies for the NCAA Final Four, which will take place at Pauley Pavilion on the campus of UCLA in another couple of weeks. So, again, congratulations to the Validans for a great come-from-behind win. Well, believe it or not, that's it. We're out of time for this edition of Mastodon Spotlight. We hope you enjoyed our look at Game 5 of that exciting volleyball match. We appreciate you tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW Athletics. We thank our sponsor, Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street, across from Scott's Foods, for helping to make this show possible. We invite you to come back again next week. We're going to have a couple of special guests to appear with us on Mastodon Spotlight. But that is next week's show. And until next week, this is Mike Maas saying, have a great week and continue to go Dons. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maas. Welcome to Mastodon Spotlight, brought to you by Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street across from Scott's Foods. On this week's program, we're going to digress and not talk about the teams pretty much because most of the teams are finishing up their season. We mentioned last week that tennis, softball, golf are all finishing up. Baseball, track and field still has a ways to go, as well as men's volleyball. What we want to do this week is spend some time with a couple of members of the athletic department, a couple of special guests, one who's been there for a little while, both as a player and as a coach and as a broadcaster, and the newest member of the IPFW athletic family. My guests this week, Ryan Perrott and Kent Horman. And when we come back from this first break, Ryan and I will talk about a number of different subjects. But again, a special week this week. We're going to talk with Ryan Perrott, Kent Horman. You'll see those conversations when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
That book was all right. You know, if she continues to spill product at a rate of 3 per hour, unit cost, say 60 cents. Factor in breakage, downtime, lost sales, you're looking at $2,400 a month. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, 2 great names.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight, little potpourri week here on the show. And I've asked a good friend of mine to come over and chat. He feels how the athletic year has gone here at IPFW, and we're happy to have back with us my old sidekick, Ryan Perrott, from the men's volleyball team. Thanks for coming over.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Good year, bad year for IPFW athletics?
It depends on how you define a good or a bad year. There's been a lot of ups and downs, obviously. Basketball, obviously the changes that the men's basketball team went through, obviously probably made the biggest of all the headliners here at IPFW.
As an outsider, to a small degree, How did you feel about the fact that that Doug was fired, putting Joe in a tough spot,
Yeah.
and then the process that Mark Pope and his committee went through, and they finally decided to hire Dane Fife at 25, the youngest men's head basketball coach in Division I. You know, in a way, you're an outsider because you're not with the basketball program, but you're also involved with the athletic program at IPFW.
Right.
From your perspective, describe what happened and how you felt.
Well, it's tough. Obviously, I don't know what happened, obviously, as an insider. But as an outsider, it's tough. I mean, this stuff happens every day in America. Every day in America. It's. I don't want to say it's a business because that's drawing over the line, I guess, so to speak. But these things, it's close to being a business. And when you don't perform well, obviously when your team doesn't perform well in the collegiate standpoint, on the court, in the classroom, obviously changes need to be made. You know, I think Mark Pope felt that changes needed to be made with the basketball team. And obviously subsequently the firing of Coach Knoll. Joe came in and did a heck of a job under such conditions. He and Freddie and Joel and Nick, they all did a great job, you know, under the situation. And, you know, it's tough to say how things will turn out for Dane. You know, I've met him on several occasions. Seems like a great guy, knowledgeable guy. He's been around the sport for a very long time. You know, we just hope nothing but the best for him and our basketball program, no question about it.
One good thing, as we speak, the athletic programs have been relatively injury-free this year. I say that with the exception of women's soccer, which took a beating. Most of the other teams, they've been lucky in a sense, no season-ending injuries that I can recall.
Right.
So our training staff, headed by Dan Fox, have done a great job.
No, without question, they've done a great job. And obviously kudos to our athletes who train so hard for such a long period of time. You know, it's a 12-month thing now. And, you know, obviously they do it professionally. They do it now collegiately. It's a 12-month thing. I go to the gym and I see everybody working out in there, even if it's their day off. They're in there training all the time. And kudos to the athletes, kudos to the training staff for keeping the players in such tip-top shape. And obviously it's panned out in our athletic department because obviously our men's and women's basketball team were competitive this year. Women's volleyball wins the independent championship. Again, another 21 season for head coach Kelly Hutton. Obviously soccer. Look at the way soccer plays. It's so physical and so demanding, and the speed and pace of the game is ridiculous. And you know, they're so competitive as well. And you know, men's volleyball and tennis and cross country. It's across the gamut, and you know, things are starting to look on the up and up. And how about Billy Gurn's baseball team? He's done a phenomenal job with that team. I went out to the game the other day where it was 24-21, a home run derby. Here, ball was blowing out. I could have hit one over the fence, and I could never hit the ball past the infield. So it's been an amazing year for IPFW athletics. Obviously, a lot of up and downs, a lot of inconsistencies, but at the same time, a lot of great stories have come out. A lot of positive things have come out, and it looks bright for the future here.
Well, let's put the crystal ball on now and look ahead to the future. Men's volleyball is in a unique position because you're already in a conference, the Midwestern Intercollegiate Volleyball Association. But the rest of the athletic department is not in a conference yet. And I mean, everyone knows it has hurt not being in a conference in terms of scheduling. It has hurt because there have been added expenses. You can play who you're able to get, and if it means going to Timbuktu, you go to Timbuktu. Where do you see this program? I mean, we all feel it may be on the up and up, but from your opinion, how long can we last not being in a conference?
Eventually, but these things happen. We're not the first school ever to make a transition from D2 to D1 and get into a conference immediately. There are teams that have the pause, that 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 year period before getting into a conference. It'll happen eventually. When? I have no idea. I am not Karnak the Magnificent. I am not Karnak the Magnificent. It'll happen eventually. It is tough. There's no question about it. I cannot imagine the athletes competing without that final goal, if you will, in terms of a national championship. It's tough. Obviously, men's volleyball, we're in a unique situation in regards to that, but it'll happen eventually. Patience is the ultimate virtue. There's no question about it. I think our athletes have handled it in a class way without the conference It's tough to schedule games here at home. Look at our men's and women's basketball team. They're on the road 3/4 of the season, if not more. I hear that our women's volleyball team is having difficulty scheduling home matches for the 2006 season. It's 2005-2006 season. It's tough. It's really tough. Our athletes have handled it in a class way. It'll happen eventually. When, I cannot give you a timetable. We just need to continue to compete, and good things will happen.
Only got a couple of minutes left, so I want to shift gears again. How are you enjoying being an assistant men's volleyball coach?
It's nice to be back. That's without hesitation or reservation. It's different only because I've never taken anything in terms of what I do seriously. I don't think I'm
Don't tell any that.
I don't take it, well, even in broadcasting too, I take it as seriously enough in terms of the long picture. How long I'll be a coach, I have no idea. I try to enjoy it as much as I can. That's what I mean by trying not to take it serious. I don't think I'm bigger than the sport. My passion for the game is still there. For as long as, obviously, Coach Ball wants me around, the athletic department wants me around, I'll be around. Afterwards, who knows? I am enjoying this time, no question about it. I appreciate it a lot more. And it's nice because I learn something different every day from the coaching aspect. My mentality starts to shift from player to coach, and it teeds back and forth because I still get the practice with the team. So my competitive fire is still there. I still train hard. I still do all those things very, very hard. So, you know, I'm enjoying it. I have the greatest individual to learn from in Coach Ball. He's a legend. He is a class individual. He's given me the opportunity not just to play here, obviously, for my 4 years back in the late 90s, but now an opportunity to be his understudy as a coach. And it is a wonderful, wonderful position that I'm in, and I cherish it every day. I cherish it every day. But at no time do I ever think, you know, I'm bigger than the game, or, you know, oh, this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I take it in stride.
Just remember, if and when you want to give up the coaching profession, come back. I miss you tremendously from the broadcasting end, and I make no bones about it. We've had a great time the time we've had a chance to broadcast. You attempt to make me look good, and when we both know that I'm not. But if you ever decide to give up the coaching, come on back. I'd love to have you come back as a sidekick, and you can teach me some more.
Well, I definitely appreciate that offer, and I do miss that too. Hopefully, we get a chance to perhaps maybe work together in the future, and you know, that's something that's on the back burner, being a sports broadcaster. So the old joke used to be, "What, I have a face for radio?" Is that the old joke? So who knows in my situation?
Hey,
huh?
I'm in the Hall of Fame with that category. Definitely a face for radio. Thanks a bunch. I always enjoy it when you come over and visit.
My pleasure.
Continued success. Hopefully this athletic program will continue to move upwards, and bigger and better things, bigger and better days are yet to come here at IPFW.
Absolutely. The future looks bright for IPFW athletics, and we have a great staff and personnel, including the administration and the athletic people, the student athletes who do a tremendous job day in and day out for us. So things will look good.
Hopefully so. We've been chatting with Ryan Perrott, my sidekick, who's Arnie Ball's #1 assistant on the men's volleyball team. We'll take a break and come back with more of Mastodon Spotlight in just a moment.
Are you in there? What's up? The show's at 7. Whoa.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Well, our first special guest this week was Ryan Perrott. My second special guest is the newest member of the IPFW athletic family, and he's also what I feel is a good friend to me, and we're tag teaming it in other areas as well, but we're happy to welcome to the family, officially, Kent Horman, who is the new Director of Athletic Marketing and
broadcasting.
Broadcasting.
Yeah.
Welcome.
It's good to be here, Mike. And I have to tell you, having just recently appeared on the Arnie Ball Show and now to get a double header as part of Mastodon Spotlight, truly the university has made me already feel like a part of the family. And this just my second week. It is good to be here.
You were kind enough to come on this show last season. You, along with Dean Pantazzi and Ryan Perrott and Rudy Jovich, and we had a heck of a good time. But that was when you were employed elsewhere. You haven't been on the job all that long, but talk about what it's been like here at IPFW, and talk a little bit about what led up to getting you over here.
Well, I mean, I found out for sure there is life after TV. I mean, that's what I spent my career, my 27-year career doing primarily with sports broadcasting. And it's kind of fun that all the years that I covered IPFW athletics and met the coaches and met the players, and I think developed more than just a sports guy athlete relationship like, okay, I talk, you talk. I mean, I really developed, I think, some friendships specifically with the coaches. And I think, as most people know, and maybe some, including us who were on the inside, are still scratching our heads about, there was a recent merger. The company that owns WPTA purchased WISE from its former owner and basically melded the two operations together. And as a result, I woke up one day and didn't have a job, which isn't the most pleasant of prospects. But the great thing about my community, and the wonderful city of Fort Wayne, is I've always felt that the community takes care of its own. And I've told people this forever, that I was born here, I'll be buried here, and it's because I love this city. And it's the old axiom, timing is everything. Just about the time that I was concluding my broadcast career with WISE, Rick Granger, the man I'm replacing, and by the way, big shoes to fill, was exploring an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity for him to go to the University of North Florida, which is going Division I, in Jacksonville. And he somewhat jokingly says, Jacksonville, Fort Wayne as far as the weather. But the timing was good for Rick. He's kind of entering a new situation. And so he took that position, a similar position, which I think also included being assistant athletic director down there. So a move up on the ladder, a move down as far as locale and better temperatures perhaps. That opened up his position, and I was very flattered to be contacted by Chancellor Wartell, who just flat out said, "Are you interested in working for the university?" And I said, yes. And then I met with Athletic Director Mark Pope. One thing led to another. And so I've kind of moved into Rick's position, and then we've also tagged on Director of Broadcasting as well, because as IPFW continues to grow at the Division I level, we're trying to get more top-of-the-mind awareness for the athletic programs here, created by what you do here at Mastodon Spotlight, by the games that are broadcast on Sports 56, obviously the relationship that they've developed on TV with Wayne TV and UPN with men's basketball, and we're trying to do a lot more with radio. Women's volleyball hopefully joins men's volleyball, which was new territory we broke this year, as well as men's and women's basketball. So it's going to be quite the challenge. I think it's going to be a lot of hours and a lot of work. I've never been a stranger to that, so that's why I think this was a perfect fit for me.
Before I go much further, I have to thank you for pinch hitting for me for the last men's volleyball match with Ohio State. Well, I was
tough duty.
I was committed to some other duties in Dayton, Ohio, with my other little gig with the Fort Wayne Wizards. But I appreciate you pinch hitting. You brought up volleyball, and you and I had an opportunity this year to do something new, something creative, something that only one other school in the country has done.
Yeah, Brigham Young.
And that is broadcast volleyball on the radio. And I know you and I, we talked about it off the air. Quite a different pace describing volleyball on the radio as opposed to describing it on TV.
Well, it's just a pace unto itself, and I've had the opportunity over the years to do play-by-play, which to me is the greatest thing on this earth. There's nothing better than live play-by-play, but I've had the chance to do high school football and basketball, some college basketball, and Comet hockey, Wizards baseball, and I thought, okay, and this kind of just came up as a thought when I was sitting after a round of golf with Blake Sebring and Arnie and Loy Ball. And Arnie posed this idea of what would it take to possibly get IPFW volleyball on the radio here in Fort Wayne. And I said, well, one of the stations who would be receptive and willing to possibly take a chance. And one thing led to another. Before we know it, we had it on the radio. And then somebody said, well, how would you call a volleyball match? And I kind of jokingly said, well, serve, pass, set, spike. And everybody says, yeah, like, sure. And I actually thought, okay, you know, the pace can't be that much different than basketball, and certainly not like that of hockey, because hockey is tremendously fast-paced. And I'll never forget the opening match I did where, I mean, it's like slap, 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 slap. I'm like, you know, having to re-spool my tongue because I guess I had forgotten just how quick the pace of play is in men's collegiate volleyball. I mean, it is just astounding. I mean, the level of play in the MIVA with IPFW and Ball State and Ohio State and Loyola of Chicago, all those teams. So once I was able to finally catch up with the pace of play itself, it became a lot of fun. And you know, my understanding is the feedback that Arnie has received and the feedback that the radio station has received, that we hopefully have hit a home run with this, and then hopefully we'll build this into continued coverage next year, and then possibly mix in some matches with Kelly Hartley's outstanding women's team as well.
Making the transition from TV to selling, and that's part of what your job is, and much less the radio, how difficult do you expect that to be?
Hopefully not very, because I had the experience for 3 years from 1995 to 98 when I actually left television for a while and was an account executive with Federated Media, primarily with WOWO. I had the chance to do a little bit of on-air work, but I was principally an account executive, and that gave me invaluable experience learning how to produce and create marketing packages. And it was mostly for the sports properties that they had there, since they had the Comets, the Wizards, the Fury, Indiana and Purdue sports, coaches shows. We also did high school football and basketball. So the one thing you have to learn about as far as marketing and sales is dealing with rejection, because a lot of people will say no, and that's okay. As far as I'm concerned, I'm anxious to knock on any door or to call any number and say, will you support this university? Will you support the outstanding programs we have here, you know, from top to bottom? There's high-profile athletics here. There's the ones that are lower profile, but they all, to me, have excellent profile, excellent coaches, excellent kids, and they're all building winners. That, to me, markets itself. So, yeah, there'll be people who will say, well, not really my cup of tea, but I think there will be more who will say it will be. And that's going to be my job. Hopefully we're going to fill the Gates Center. Hopefully we're going to try to get the Coliseum, you know, quarter full, half full, 3/4 full. It can be done, so to me it's time to take it to the next level, and the time is now.
What do you feel will be the biggest challenge? Obviously, getting someone that has said no or says maybe or let me think about it, getting them to change their mind, but realistically, this has been a conservative town. You said you've lived here all your life.
Yes.
I've lived here for 18 years. Great people in this town, make no bones about it.
No question.
But sometimes changing a mind is not the easiest thing to do.
Well, and clearly it's one of the things I learned both in business. I mean, you cannot tell people how to spend their marketing or advertising dollars, just as with individuals. You cannot tell them what to do with their disposable income. You can't say, oh, you have to go to this movie, or you have to go to this hockey game, or you have to go to this civic theater show, or this Philharmonic, or you have to go to IPFW basketball or volleyball. You can't tell them what to do. And I think one of the things we have to do is make it exciting. And you know, there were years where everybody had to be at a Comet game, or the next day they were kind of out of the loop around the company coffee pot or water cooler. We have to do the same thing with IPFW athletics. And I really think that the bar has been raised, but I think that this community is up to reaching that bar. I mean, they came out in droves and supported that NIT game with Notre Dame and St. Louis, which IPFW helped execute. And the same with hockey. And of course, a lot of people say, yes, this is a hockey town because of the Comets and its 50-plus year tradition. Well, there's a great tradition here. We're just now building the Division I tradition, but I just think it's a matter of knocking on doors and picking up telephones saying, hey, we're here. Why don't you come out and join us? Check it out. And I have a feeling that if they do and they see the caliber of competition and just the quality of kids we have here, I think they'll come back.
We had Ryan on earlier, and you told me a story before we started taping this segment, which I did not know, And maybe you can tell our viewers.
Well, I thought it was great because, again, I love nicknames, by the way. And I've always thought, okay, what is the origination of somebody's nickname? And he's, to me, he's always been Rock. And I thought, and I remember him as a fierce competitor with the team that went to the Final Four back at UCLA. And I thought, there must be something about this just because of his grit, his determination. Key points, he came through like a rock, or he was just a rock as far as his intensity or his focus. And I watched the first segment of the Arnie Ball show, and it turns out that he got the name Rock because Arnie used a swimming pool as part of his training technique, and Ryan is not exactly, let's just say, a Michael Phelps as far as a swimmer. So when he hit the pool, he sank like a rock. And then the running joke was who would give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. So, yeah, Rock is just because he can't float. It has nothing to do with his volleyball skill. It's because he sinks like a rock. That's one of the things I've already learned here. My first week and a half on the job, so I've learned some of the great nickname tradition here at IPFW.
Surprising, he interned for you at Channel 33,
yes,
and you
did.
weren't able to extract that information then.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting too. In fact, when he was talking about his background in business and then going back and getting his master's in communications, and I jokingly said, yeah, I'm not sure communications is what we want to go into right now as far as a curriculum in Fort Wayne, but I know Arnie considers him a valuable asset as far as the volleyball program as his assistant, and he's great for the kids, he's great for the university, and he's great for the community.
Final question. You mentioned that Chancellor Wartell approached you, and I believe you'll answer to him and you'll answer to Mark Pope. How important is it to have those two guys behind you in this? And let's face it, this is what I term a colossal endeavor, because I know I've been working in some degree towards this for several years myself, because I just love this university. How important is it to have those two guys on your side?
That's the only reason I took the job, quite honestly. I mean, aside from the kids and the coaches who I've grown to know and develop friendships with over the years, it was shortly after I lost my job and my phone rang, and to me it's kind of impressive when it's the chancellor. And it was, Kent, this is Chancellor Wartell. You got dealt some kind of lousy cards. I have one question. Are you interested in working for the university? Deep breath. Boy, yeah, thank you, sir. Okay, promise me you won't take another job offer until you talk to us. He talked to Mark Pope, and then I started talking with Mark, and they didn't have to paint much of a picture at all where they see the vision of this university going, not only athletically at the Division I level, but just the whole picture, academically, the campus, everything. So, and again, as I said before, it's a no-brainer. I was happy they considered me to be part of this, and I think I have the chance to jump on board and hopefully contribute to something very, very special.
Again, welcome to the family.
It's good to be here.
I think we're having fun already, folks. Kent and I work together at the Home Wizards broadcast, and I'm really tickled pink for that, and looking forward to working with him here at IPFW. But thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. We're kind of becoming Batman and Robin, so I just hope
Figure out which is which.
There you go. I just hope I can make people believe in blue, because I do.
And how? I agree with you there. Kent Horman has been our second special guest this week on Mastodon Spotlight. We thank Kent. We thank our first guest, Ryan Perrott. We thank our sponsor, Ryan Steakhouse, located on North Clinton Street across from Scott's Foods. And we thank you, the viewer, for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW Athletics. We invite you to come back again next week for another edition of the program. But until then, this is Mike Maz saying, have a great week and continue to go Dons.